or to go over contracts.
Yeah, we'll for contracts. Yep. Contract negotiations. And we'll still have one for personnel.
Is there anything else saying we need to add to? the
I think
agenda?
that should do it.
All right, so we have a motion.
I move that we adopt the agenda. Wording just jumped out on me. As amended, thank you.
All right, all those in favor? Okay, and then the meeting minutes from February 5th.
You have a couple of corrections.
Okay.
Ready, Abby? In the very top, meeting convened. We have it as a special session, but it was actually a workshop.
Gotcha, thank you.
And down under matters pertaining to the sheriff's office. Very first line, you've got the Maine Borough of Highway Safety Bureau, BURE.
Thank you.
Other than that, that's all I have.
I had the same typo on Bureau, and with that, I guess I would move that we adopt them as amended.
All right.
I'll second that.
All right, all those in favor? All right, and we have a crowd today, which is unusual for us. So, happy to hear public comments. And I think how we'll go about, we'll maybe start here. And if you just want to say your name and the town you live in, and then whatever public comment you have, and if you have similar comments and you just want to say, you know, something brief to add to what somebody else has already said, that's fine too, whatever you want to do it. So we'll start with you.
My name is Janice Cardoza and I live in Norway and I'm going to defer to Pat Chairman.
That's me.
Great.
My name is Patricia Sherman and I'd like to speak.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, Commissioner Chair, Commissioner Millett and Commissioner Turner.
What's your name?
My name is Patricia Sherman and as Commissioner Turner knows, I served 8 years as the last Oxford East Register of Deeds, elected by 27 towns in the unorganized territories of Oxford County, and participated in the transition to the consolidation of the two registries, which was a win-win for the county taxpayers. I'm not going to bore you with the details. I'm here today with a few others to speak to the whispers that we've heard about exploring the idea of an appointed rather than an elected county treasurer. Approaching and embracing change in order to benefit the taxpayers is the job we all agreed to at swearing in. And I'm sure that is the basis for any discussion about a change in status from an elected to an appointed county treasurer. In this case, we feel that an elected treasurer, as we have now, best serves the people. When we are speaking about the management and responsibility of the large sums that come through the deeds office, and mainly, and are expended in the best interest of the county through the various departments, we need to know that we, the people, have a player that we have elected in the game. An outside audit is one thing, but in my 8 years as register, only one of my monthly reconciliation detail folders disappeared and was lost, and that was by an outside auditor. In short, we wish to oppose any move to do away with an elected county treasurer. Should the move proceed, we wish to have citizen representatives involved in any data gathering and discussions. Thank you very much.
Are you looking?
Sure, would you like to be?
Hi, I'm Janet Jameson. I live in beautiful town of Paris. I am here today to piggyback on what Pat has said regarding the possible transition of treasurer from elected to appointed. And I guess when I first heard about this, my first thought was, well, wait a minute. I pay attention to what's going on in the legislature, and with Republicans out of power, all I've heard is complaints about, well, the Secretary of State is appointed by the party in power. The treasurer is appointed as the, did I say Attorney General? Secretary of State, Attorney General, and Treasurer, all appointed by the party in power. And y'all seem to like the idea of turning that into elected offices. So I don't understand why there might be an attempt to take the power from people and, let them elect who they want in these offices. And I guess, what would be the process? I'm curious about the process, and I liked what Pat said about having people, regular people like us, involved in whether something like that takes place. So, yeah.
There is a process outlined in statute to do that, and yeah, we weren't actually. There really hasn't been. There's just been a conversation between Beth and I, and that's why this is up here today. But we haven't really had any full-throated discussion amongst ourselves. Zero discussion about going from appointed. But I'm actually really glad we're having this discussion because I think it's an important one to have. So. But yes, if we were to do it, it would be by vote of the commissioners, but then it would go to the people to vote on, which has already happened in Oxford County and was voted down. But just so you all know that that's kind of why the packet is put together the way it is, just so that as we have discussions about things that we have the law in front of us, not that we were necessarily considering to do that, but just that when you talk about anything, it's always best to have the legal language in front of you that dictates the policy around that position. So that just as an explanation for you. So we'll go to the back now. Thanks. Yes, please.
Morning, my name is Annie Kern. I live over in Albany. Here looking for a little support in getting our road accessible. I can turn to these two to speak more to that as the guys that are doing most of the maintenance at this moment.
Okay. And what's the road?
Dresser School.
Dresser School? Okay. All right, sure, go ahead.
Hi, my name's Ken Willie. I'm from Albany Township and I live on Dresser School also and have for many years. I purchased the land there in the mid-'80s, at which time the road was in much better condition than it is nowadays, although not maintained for winter as there was no residences out there. But since the 90s, it's really fallen apart considerably from what it was when anybody could drive through, any neighbor could go to the dump that way or whatever, and now they avoid it. I think it's at this point, there are 3 residences out there and 2 summer camps. So things have changed. 2 families have 2 people going to work daily, and often they have to walk up to half a mile to get out. Unfortunately, this year I need an ambulance, and it was real iffy whether or not they were going to make it in or out. Things are changing. Earlier when I purchased, I thought it would stay approximately the same, and at least even though not winter maintained, it would be easy to maintain in the winter with a smooth surface and good drainage. Well, that's gotten to the point where people just don't want to take on that job. It's too hard on the equipment. There's also at this point a public access to 400 acres of conserved land that the public gets to use. I know more traffic would like to go through, and I know many people that did go through won't go through. I guess those are the main points. Historically, it was a well-traveled road. There were 6 farmhouses, although all abandoned. It was domesticated land, well-traveled. So it's not a logging road is what I'm trying to stress. That was recently done. It's on all the old county maps and whatnot. I feel also that we pay taxes based on, often they're increased because of road frontage, but there's no deduction. I called the tax department and you pay just like anybody else if they were on a maintained public road. It doesn't seem equitable. And I think those are my main points. It's literally getting to a point for me where I have to decide if I have to move. I don't want to.
And you're also, thank you for that.
I can second everything he said, and as the guy doing most of the plowing, it's almost impossible because I'm sliding off the road and I'm taking days off of work. Becoming just like a financial hardship for me, and I'm in the same boat where I'm looking at it like, okay, should I look at moving? And I don't want to move either. I really like where I live. So I guess the only other thing I could add as maybe just a suggestion is when the road is maintained and fixed, in the summer, we have massive amounts of recreational vehicles that come in and just trash it. And so I guess all I would like to add is maybe we get signage that says no recreational vehicles permitted or discouraged. So that when the road is maintained, if and when we can keep that.
I add one more. It is listed as like an official route for recreational vehicles online, we found.
It is?
Yes.
It's not supposed to be.
So now I think I'll turn to, yeah, would you like to, Commissioner Millet? has-
Well, I was wondering if Tony would be in a position to either now or later to comment on the quality of the road or the condition of it and whether or not we.
Listen to that, some folks here. Correct?
Let's do that.
That's okay.
Absolutely. Yep, that's a great idea. Okay, so we'll maybe just keep going down the back row here, and if you want to introduce yourself and
Yeah.
Representative Lance, yeah.
Sure. Well, I have nothing to say about the road in Albany. I think I know where it is though. And last time I saw it, it was barely passable and that was not even in the wintertime. But I will say, my name is Mike Lance. I'm the state representative for District 79, which is towns of Paris, West Paris, Sumner and Woodstock. I like your comments about the constitutional officers, Janet. That's very interesting. We complain as the minority party because they're appointed by the majority party. And so we hope that when we gain the majority, then we'll get to appoint them. And I thought, well, doesn't that indicate a bit of sort of nepotism and favoritism? Who's to say that the opposite party would not have a very good candidate for Secretary of State? So I and some other people in our caucus would support the idea of constitutional officers actually being out for public vote, but that would require, I believe, a change in the main constitution, and that would require a 2/3 vote, and that's kind of tough to get regardless of who is in the majority. But I would always support that. I think that's a great idea. Who's to say that there's not somebody from the other party that's not in the majority that would be a very good constitutional officer? So sometimes when they're just appointed, that gives the other party a reason to complain and to say, well, when we're in the majority, we'll do the same thing. Well, maybe the same thing is not the best answer in that situation. So thank you for those comments.
I'm Richard Gagne. I recently moved here from Portland to West Paris. I'm running for sheriff 2026. And this is exactly what I want to bring is the collaboration, open communications, and just an open forum. So thank you. And the people that have met me already, hello again.
Beth, since you're sitting here, do you just want to introduce yourself? If you're not a member of the public and it is public comment, but.
Right, I think a lot of the folks here know me, but Beth Calhoun, I'm the current county treasurer.
Sure, we'll go.
Hi, I'm Don Barry. I'm here to listen, basically, concerned for the treasurer. I think that it should stay the way it is, independent. And that's it. I'm having a wicked time hearing it here. Just getting over a cold tonight.
Yeah, you're going around for sure.
James McEwen, I'm from Mexico. I'm also here as well to support the continuation of electing the treasurer. I know that when Treasurer Gadat was in office, he modernized the Treasury Department and he made it, he brought computers in and he modernized it. It was good. The next treasurer, it was unfortunate, it didn't work out as well. But when Beth came in, I think everybody appreciates the job she's done in straightening out finances here in Oxford County in the past few years. And I think that that's a good example of how things can happen on both parties can come in and you get the best performance by asking the people what they want. Thank you.
Yes.
My name's Phil Cosman. I'm also here to hear about the treasurer's position and the safeguards that would be in place if it moved to appointed position that would prevent the perception of cronyism or corruption that could easily be prevalent in, in the actions of the treasurer. So what would be the appointing process? What would be the criteria established to have a treasurer? What skills and education would be required to be a treasurer? Those are the things I'm interested in hearing.
You want to say hello since you're part of the room?
Sure. Hello, I'm Dana Dillingham. I'm the jail administrator and I'm here for the 9:30 department head meeting because if you're not early, you're late.
I'm Joan Beal, and I'm here mostly to hear what the discussion is going to be about the treasurer position.
Okay.
Barbara Howard, and the same thing about the treasurer's position.
Would you like to introduce yourself and?
Sure. Zelia Cormier, also here for the conversation about the treasurer's position.
So I, just since we both were here about the treasurer position, that is on the agenda. One of the things we're going to talk about is, with Beth is just like what the duties of that are like, and then what would be an appropriate salary. And the reason that we have, as I stated earlier, the reason that we have the legal language around the position is because it's best, I think, to have that in front of us as we have discussions about any position. Because I think weren't sure how that happened. There is, of course, a statewide discussion. This happened in Oxford County in the past, and statewide has been happening about the treasurer position, and the fact that being elected, that sometimes their qualifications don't really meet the needs for the job. However, in Oxford County, we have a really good setup. And I'm going to let the other commissioners join in on this because I think it's important that everybody share their opinion. But we have a finance director, and basically what maybe, and I'm going to go out on a limb here because I wasn't here in the past, but what might have been considered the treasurer's bulk of the treasurer's duties in the past really has shifted to a finance director who is hired for their qualifications. And then a lot of our finance day-to-day questions are very readily answered by that full-time position that handles that day-to-day finance for us. So the treasurer position now is more of an oversight position and much less detailed. But I did want to, since Beth is leaving and has done an excellent job, I wanted to hear from her, which is why it's on the agenda, about her position, about the duties that she feels are important for that position, and then also look at the pay rate for that position, so that we're making sure it's commensurate with the actual time involved and fair to the taxpayers and fair to the next person who might be looking to take that job. So that's why it's on the agenda. And it's later on after the department heads. So if you want to stay, you're more than welcome to stay and listen to that. It will be, sometime after 11. And you also are welcome to watch the meeting online if you choose to do that. And it's also now recorded and going to be uploaded to YouTube, so you can even catch it later. So with that, I'm going to turn to both the commissioners and see. So we'll also talk about the Albany Road, but let's just talk first about the treasurer position. And this agenda came as a surprise to the other commissioners. I mean, not a surprise, like everybody saw the packet like you did, but they didn't know that I asked for this to be discussed today. So I don't know if they have any thoughts about it, because that's how brand new this is.
I am wide open for the discussion that will follow and appreciate the input here. Concur with Chair Time about the position we have today with Beth and Lindsay Kay, our finance director, is one of the best. And I think we're very fortunate in Oxford County that the two people work well together, and I think we're well served. I think the discussion is going to be helpful, but there is no indication from this side of the aisle that I am in favor of appointing a treasurer. So it's just a discussion issue as far as I'm concerned. And I'll look forward to comments from Beth as well. I appreciate the testimony.
think he said on Allen Road.
I'll echo Commissioner Millet's
Snowbank. so
sentiments.
that
This was
bridge-
just simply a discussion. It wasn't supposed to take any action today or even in the near future. But I'm glad you're here because this is exactly what our country is about, is citizens coming in and telling us what they like. Pat, I'm glad to see you again. And I just, best on the other party, I'll tell you right now. I think she's probably the best treasurer we've had since I've been here. You've done a great job. I wish you would run again. I know you're not gonna, but seriously, you've done a great job. I don't have an opinion either way. This is simply up for discussion. I think we kind of got ahead of ourselves with this. There really isn't a discussion to remove it. It's what would be the process if we decided to. But I'm glad you're here to express your opinions. This is what it's all about. Because normally, we don't have anybody for public discussion. We can take care of all the other pertinent matters. But this tells me how important this issue is. And I also want to take the opportunity to thank you for coming up on the Dresser Hill Road. It's a concern I feel. I'm going to say if we're going to do anything, but we need to hear from you so that we know the problem. So thank you for coming.
Yeah, so, so let's move to the Dresser Hill, Dresser Hill Road, School Road, Dresser School Road. Do you, Tony, want this?
Yeah.
Do you want to talk now about that, or would you rather?
I'll comment. So I'll take the easy part first. We do not maintain it in the winter, so it's signed that way and it has been for many, many years before myself come to this position. But every year in the spring, we use Wilson Excavation on that side of Albany South, and they spend at least a week's time in there every year bringing gravel, grading, ditching, and so forth. Changed a couple of culverts this past year.
I don't think they were on the road once this year.
Once. Were they?
All right, I can address that for some of
Yeah,
it.
that'd be yours, too. The years have been zero.
Yeah.
The ditching hasn't been done for a long time. I can't even remember. They did the hill on the west side 6 years ago. Last time they ditched anything, they put a culvert in. That's the only thing I really noticed.
So I'll take a look at it this spring with Wilson Excavation and see what I can do to improve the road. But at this point, I don't believe there's any plan. There's been no discussion about opening it up for plowing. That's an additional cost to the county. So
Just a note, I don't think
Yeah.
we're plowing. I just want to be able to plow.
understood.
Understood.
Contractors won't take it on. It's too
I'll
rough.
hire anybody to do it if my truck breaks. I'm knowing that they get it.
But I'll look at it. I already got a spring meeting scheduled with whenever spring is with Richie Morse of Wilson Excavation. So we try to pay a little more attention to it and see what we can do for him. So
So just for everyone that I realize that Tony Hunter is the manager of our unorganized territory, which is why we
Right.
shifted this conversation to him. But also, I think when they're saying what your expectation of Wilson Excavation is different than their lived reality of Wilson Excavation. So possibly if you could look at the past history and see maybe what we've been charged for that work, or if we haven't, just to double check on that as well, if you would.
I will. And
Yeah.
I travel that road 2 or 3 times every spring. and
Yeah,
With all the roads, that's one I do travel. I will admit that the Wardwell Road side of it is in pretty rough shape. It's passable, but it's
On the other side, the road is lower than the ditches, so we know where the water goes, down the hill, in the middle.
So I'll take a look at it.
okay, yeah,
I'd like to make clear, I bought it knowing it wasn't plowed, and that's okay, but the condition was so that it was easy to plow. And it's definitely fallen way apart, really since Hatstat stopped taking care of it, who every year would get money, every year would grade it, add some gravel. It was still a narrow country road and it had some bumps in it, but you could go by in any car you wanted to. Wardwell's, anybody could drive through. And now people just don't. So it's definitely gone the wrong way. That doesn't seem right. As the use increases and people move in, that the road starts getting worse and worse. It's just not fair.
So I just want to make sure that we follow up on this. So maybe Tony, after you look into the sort of the past history of upkeep on that, would you update us on that?
Yeah.
And then also, do you all want to make sure you leave your email address so that Tony can?
Oh, we. And.
I think I've talked to Tony many times.
Facilitating. Okay, great. Okay. I just want to make sure that the conversation doesn't stop here, that we definitely want to follow up and make sure we're looking into this further. Okay.
You should ride it someday, if you get a chance. I think Sawmill, I think you've driven it in the past when it was a decent road. Probably avoid it now.
Shouldn't need an ATV to drive it.
Yeah. Good. Okay. All right. I think we have heard from everyone at this point. And all right, so we're ready to move to our department head meeting.
I think we got 5 minutes, but Tony said in the way, I think.
Oh, yeah. Our official clock is behind Tony Carter, and it actually doesn't keep time. We should probably just not have that.
It seems like we said it just doesn't count correctly.
Clock that doesn't work, and that's how we run our meetings.
Yes, I appreciate it.
So yeah, so the department head meeting starts at 9:30, so we will wait to begin at that moment so that they're filtering in and we want to make sure they can be here.
Are we done from the back here?
Yes, yep. If you want, you're welcome to stay for our entire meeting if you would like, but if you're ready to.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks for coming in.
for coming in.
See you again.
Helpful.
Nice meeting you.
I know. I feel like we're. Well, we can push back and that space feels a little more. I mean, because we're not eating.
So when you do the call up, people make sure you get Lindsay on. Yeah.
Okay, and you know what? I forgot, I totally meant to make a note to ask if anyone online wanted to make a comment. So I'll ask now, since we haven't started our department head meeting, is there anyone online that wanted to make a public comment or introduce themselves just to say hello?
You know, I'll listen online too for when we do department heads. So Allison and Lindsay are both on that.
No. Jamie's here for it.
Tammy's here for department heads. Oh, okay. She's leaving.
Oh, okay.
Hey, Commissioners, Dave Doogie here, just saying hello.
All right.
Morning, Dave.
Good morning.
Morning, Dave.
I enjoy the view from here more than in the chair.
I'll be joining you in 10 months.
Okay. No, you folks are doing a great job. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
It'll be Beth and I joining you in 10 months. Joining Dave and watching from that side.
That's going to.
But we have, someone is trying, hold on.
Oh, Joy Downing.
Yes, she says.
Great. My name is Joy Downing and I am town manager of West Paris, sitting in on this meeting to stay up to date. Perfect. Thank you for joining us, Joy. We have 9:30, so I'm going to start with you, Beth, the woman of the hour over there. So good morning again, and I know you can pass off to Lindsay, who's online, when you're finished.
Okay, no, I will defer most of the report to Lindsay for the specifics of it. Obviously, we have some items on the agenda for the treasurer's report later. discussing the need to go out for tax anticipation note is something we want to discuss. Staffing is something we want to discuss, and again, I know that you have the item on there because you had wanted to discuss the salary and the duties, and I appreciate that folks have come this morning to express their opinions on the treasurer's position, because again, I do think it's critically important to hear from the taxpayers on that. So again, I'll keep it brief and refer to Lindsay for particulars.
Good morning, Lindsay.
Hi, can you hear me?
You can.
Okay, great. I'll keep it brief since I'm online. We just wrapped up our federal grant audit as part of our 2024 audit, and we got through with no findings. They selected the ARPA grant and did a lot of testing on how we did our procurements, and I'm happy to say that we passed with flying colors on that. So thank you to all of the people, Jeff and Tony in particular, who worked on those grants and helped with that audit. Our next up for audits is going to be the unorganized territories for their fiscal year 2025, which ended in June. We're going to be having site work for that audit at the end of March, and I expect the site work for the county 2025 audit to be right after that or very close to those dates as well. So we're just kind of going from one audit to the next, but everything seems to be going pretty well so far with the audits that we've completed. In terms of budget reports, I sent out all of the budget versus actuals to January to the department heads last week before I went out of the office. So you should have those, and just a note to everyone to be really mindful of your budgets this year. It's going to be a tight budget this year where we don't have as much buffer as we did last year. So we're just going to be watching those pretty carefully. And other than that, running payroll today. And then I will be offline the rest of the week after I finish up today. All right, thanks.
Just one question for you, Lindsay. When you mentioned the federal grant review, does that mean, so do the feds not review every grant, but they just choose one and just kind of spot? Or do they review
That's
all?
right. They will usually just choose one, and then they'll do a selection of transactions from that grant. So then they look at those transactions and dig into them, and we have to prove that we got the appropriate approvals on them, that the procurement went through a competitive bidding process, that we have contracts and the contract language is appropriate. So that's pretty much how it works. If we do have a finding on an audit like that, oftentimes it will result in disallowed costs, which we would have to pay back to the feds. But quite luckily, or thankfully, we do not have any of those disallowed costs on our audit or any findings at all.
Okay. Thank you. And I just want to reiterate what we said on the tight budget, because we had a couple of things that we've discussed recently as commissioners where we're looking at, we know costs have already gone over what we budgeted and expected. So, one of the things I want to talk about today in the treasurer's report is where do we need to look at cutting back if things start to get tight. So, because obviously going over budget is not going to be good. So, yes, Beth.
I would just like to congratulate Lindsay on the cleanness of that audit, because it's not due to luck or chance. It's due to hard work and attention to detail and following all the procedures. So that's why we get clean audits and things go well. So.
Couldn't agree more.
The treasurer.
Yeah.
Maybe not the treasurer, but a treasurer. Major Dillingham in the corner. Can we go to you? Because I might forget you if I don't go to you next.
Sure. Try to hide over here.
I know you're hiding.
Got 74 people in custody this morning. 46 of them are in our jail, and they're in various jails around the state that have room. Only staff for another hour or two here. You've got an appointment coming in front of you. But I've got several applications for part-time work. We're doing well in the and the staffing department. So, everybody finished up their annual training. Reports have been sent to the state. One day at a time.
Yes, Ed, how about you next?
County's doing good. We're staying warm. Hopefully each day we get one day closer to spring. But other than that, everything seems to be going good.
How are things, Jeff?
That will continue to be busy. Tomorrow, we have interviews for employees. Next week, we have an interview for administrative assistant. And after 2 long years, we have finally gotten the notice to proceed with the Otis Field Tower. So they were mobilizing yesterday, and I'm not sure where they stand today, but that will help us get Otis Field and the new tower in Sweden online. So it's been a long process, but we're getting there. And that's about what I have for today.
Me too. That's really good news. Thank you.
Yeah, after those hirings, we'll be full staff. Yeah. 7 years. 7 years since we've been full staffed at the RCC.
And we've gone from a little over a year ago from 7 to 16 where we belong. So
Long, slow rebuild. Good. I'm glad to see us on this side of it. Thank you for the work. Tony?
That Dresser School Road, I gotta take a look at that.
Okay.
Be a little facetious there, but we'll take care of that in the spring. We'll look it over, see what we need to do. Right now, it's getting that time. I'm gonna have to do some road trips, just, it's kind of almost time to start posting roads, so. With this warmer weather and water flowing, won't be long, so probably March 1st this year, so. Right around the corner. The airport, we had a planning meeting for the extension of the runway last week, just, first meeting to talk about the details around it, and, so that went very well, very informative. And the new lessee at the airport, all caught up in his monthly payments, so. Very well there, and we've been very aggressive in cleaning up. Even stuff that goes back to the predecessor way back, so. But advancing well right there at the airport as well, so. No major projects at the airport this year, so just planning and engineering, so.
So question of Tony and maybe Abby and Zane can weigh in too. A couple of emails in the past from the Center for Resilience-Based Economy, wherein we had a grant of who's in charge of scheduling some sort of a discussion, but I don't want to let that thing drop because we don't have a contact person officially.
Yeah, Tamara Benson is actually our contact person, and we are, and Tony and I are in constant contact with her. We actually had a meeting the other day via Zoom with the LUPC and Tamara in order to set up another forum, and she's gonna be sending out some dates for those. So we're gonna have kind of piggyback on top of that, because they have to run 3 meetings to determine exactly what they're gonna do for projects through the Resiliency Maine. And it is Albany and Upton has also jumped on board as well through the contact. Yep.
Thank you. I didn't want to hear it drop without making that contact.
Well, last week we filled out all the questionnaires that they requested, submitted them. They're out for review. And I believe the dates right now for the resiliency is the evening of March 10th and the 24th, 5 to 6:30 for his fire department. Conference.
Okay, all right, you're up, Sherry.
What's up? Okay, so first and foremost, the office, we have Alicia, who's been with us a little over a year now. She's just starting to work on some back indexing projects. What that does is it makes the records easily searchable or more easily searchable. And we're also working on the re-indexing of some Old West documents, because that's the number one question that we get when people call us, is that they're looking for that information on the front side. We call it the front side of the website versus the early books. So we're transitioning work from when Pat was here, making sure that that gets transitioned to the front side so that we make sure we're providing that service to the researchers. Millie is just starting to get into that. I'm really a little slow with that because she's only been here a little over 6 months. I want that attention to detail. I want that competency. People are very competent in what they do every day, but I don't want to add that pressure to them with outside of the regular scope of work. The regular daily scope of work really is detail oriented, and we just need to really pay close attention to that. Darren is continuing to work with finance. So we met with Zane and a couple of weeks ago, and we've really scheduled about an hour and a half to 2.5 hours every other week while you have your workshop and you have your commissioners meeting, to be sure that finance is covered, that warrants are able to get out. So we just really appreciate administration and finance working with us through that, because of course, when Darren's doing that, Darren's not able to help us in the office. So we appreciate that. Another aspect of the office is we've just got done with our first month at the new fees. So if you remember last year, we had the fee increase and we did 32 documents less in January this year than we did last year, but we brought in just over $29,000 more in recording fees. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that's going to progress forward throughout the year and what that's going to look like for our bottom line. And then I will be out of the office next week. I'm heading to Virginia PREA convention. PREA again is Property Records Industry Association, which is super valuable to not only us in Oxford County for our preservation purposes and recording purposes, but it's also for the Registrars Association. So there are 7 of us from the Registrars Association attending this year. And that has been one of our challenges, to how many people we can actually get, because we like to be able to show that it is a team effort and that there are people coming from Maine. We are the only people coming from Maine. So that's always a nice highlight, because we're one of the smaller states, smaller recording venues. So it's nice to be able to have that group go with us. And lastly, Friday afternoon, we were in our association meeting in Augusta, and we're informed that LD 2124 is going to work session this afternoon. So I came in a few hours on Saturday morning, came in again yesterday afternoon to try to collect some data that they had asked us for. They were asking us specifically for what the mansion tax did for our revenue over the last 2 months of 2025. Unfortunately, because it was the timing of the work session, we're not able to get all of those figures from all of the counties, but we do have 5 of our counties that we're able to bring that information to. Our preliminary number that I want to make sure that you realize is that $1.2 million goes into the general fund from us, just from Oxford County, every year. So that is money that they're trying to take from us in order to fund shelters. We don't have an issue funding shelters, but we don't feel as though it's the taxpayers' responsibility to fund those shelters. So what that ends up meaning to us is about 4.5% increase in property taxes across the state. So we're trying to educate them on what we are losing already. And I'm hoping that Dana is able to join me, because Sawin and Tim Curtis were able to put forth a really good foot of information last week in what we're already losing. So if the transfer tax can help make up some of that jail funding shortage, then we need to try for that. I feel very strongly that we could pass the buck. There are several people in the state who feel as though it's the commissioner's responsibility to fight for this. It's the administrator's responsibility to fight for this. It's finance. I'm the one that collects it. So I feel very strongly that it's my responsibility to make sure that you're all aware of what I do in my office to make sure that the county is covered. So I appreciate your support. Solon last week in public hearing was super supportive of our association as well as myself. And I just appreciate being able to contribute to the team effort. And that's really what it is. So this afternoon, I will be in Augusta and we'll hear what we have to say.
I just had a quick question. What kind of shelters are you referring to? Shelters?
They're emergency shelters. So they're trying to compare emergency shelters with overcrowding at jails. So if there were more shelters available, there wouldn't be as much overcrowding at jails, which Dana made a very good point that they do not arrest people for being homeless. So,
Okay, thank you.
What's the LD again, Sherry?
what's that?
2124. Yep. Okay, so, and yours, is Allison also speaking or is it just?
No, it's just me.
Okay.
So Allison is, they're on their way to Greenwood right now for a final site inspection for a generator. That's part of an HMPG grant, so.
Would you, I didn't do this, but would you introduce yourself,
Oh.
Allison? I just realized all our guests and we're kind of like going like usual, we don't have anybody watching us.
Sure. My name is Cammie Sprague. I'm the Deputy Director of Emergency Management. So after this meeting, I'm headed to Mexico to do a walkthrough of the new Mountain Valley Community School. So I'm excited about that. We held our first G402 class last week. We had participants from Peru, Dixfield, Hartford, Buckfield, and Waterford. I think we had about 10 or 11 people, which was decent. And then we'll hold our second G402 class in October. And we're really jumping into the Thyra SPR. We started working on the hazard vulnerability assessment, which will roll into the Thyra. So it's a big process. And it's a new concept for Cassandra and I, who will be working on this. It'll be mainly our project. That's where we're at.
Right, probate.
Jennifer Dilworth, Register of Probate. Unfortunately, we're busy, which is always a good thing, but, and as you know, the probate is open to the public files, except for any files that have been sealed by the judge. Starting January 15th, just this past January, adult guardianships are now sealed online. You can't view them online on mainprobate.net. You can see that someone is under guardianship, but that's it. You can come into the office and physically see the file, but there will still be certain parts of that file that it won't let you see or the public see, unless you're an attorney on the case or a specific party of the case, EAG's office or DHHF, then you can see them. And that's really our biggest news, our biggest thing to try to grapple with, because, you know, for so long, everything's public now.
And so you were uploading them in your office and now you know.
And now I'm going through and making sure that the right codes have been put in so that they're not visible online and.
Right, so they're still uploaded, but
It's not visible. Unless you are the filing attorney or GLs or visitors.
Yeah, I'm Lisa Mack. I am the office manager for the DA's office. We just got done with a very busy grand jury. That was Friday. They rose, getting ready for a lot of dispositional conferences. We were trying to get things in order for one of our DAs is going out, having a baby. No, it's not Dick. And so that has been a little bit of a task, but we're moving forward and we're in a good spot.
oh, yeah. Amen. Sheriff. you're up.
Yes, good morning. Christopher Wainwright, sheriff here in the county. Some of the updates, we just finished doing the end of the year reports, statistical reports in a letter that went out to all of the towns in Oxford County. They normally include in the town report, the one on the page that you guys skip over, but it gives our statistics, how many calls for service for each town for the year. We also, Caitlin Armstrong just helped facilitate the Board of Visitors report, which is a group of citizens that meet periodically over the year and make recommendations in our correctional facility and send that report on to the legislature as mandated. That has just been done, and we finished up our annual training, and the chief made the report to the academy, and Dana's going to let you know that we have 76.
Already did.
Okay, 76. It was 72, but it's like a ticker that keeps going up. So inmates. And I won't do much more because I'm on next with you folks, and we'll give you the rest of the report. So
We get a copy of the Board of Visitors report.
I'll make sure you have one. Yeah.
Yeah, and also the calls for service report that you sent to the towns. Could we have that as well?
Yeah. So each town gets an individual one. So there's going to be, 50 something reports. So we could either do it so that you get just your district, which is countywide completely, or we could break it down by each of your districts. I don't know, Tim, maybe you could weigh in. I know you've done it in the past, which would be beneficial.
We did it by district. When we've done it in the past, we did it by district.
We'll try to get that over to you. It just gets sent out, so. We'll get that over to you, either in electronic form, probably.
Electronic sign for me. I'm
Okay.
not sure about.
Yeah. Me as well. Electronic's great. Good for you.
That's it.
Chief.
Just a little bit more from what the sheriff said. Jim Urquhart, Chief Deputy, Oxford County Sheriff's Office. We had some selections that we're going to put forward for 2 detectives. Very, very competitive board and selections, which it's hard, but we like to see that. So kudos to them. We'll present their names to you later. Major and I have been working on updating our policies. We met with outside agencies for our MLEAP, our accreditation program. We're pushing that forward, and hopefully we'll be able to do some first steps of some on-site inspections and things like that. So that's very beneficial, not only to Oxford County, but to our group and inside the agency. Doing, as he said, the annual report, that's all submitted to the academy. That basically says everybody's been trained, they've done what they are expected to do, and what our projected for 2026 is going to be. And that's what we're working on right now. So other than that, just the daily operations, awesome service, getting people and vehicles and all that stuff, the boring stuff, but we're pushing forward.
Anybody? So, Sandy, do you want to add something?
I'm just gonna keep it short. I'm not feeling that great today. But I think everything's been, running fairly smoothly. We have been dealing with some issues in finance. But I think Lindsay and Beth are right on top of those. We're working on that. And really, all the department heads are doing a great job and keeping me informed. So it's all good. Very good.
So maybe I'll go next since I actually have a bullet point. I sent out a letter just kind of reiterating our policy on bad weather. And so the policy hasn't changed, but I sent out a letter to everyone because I just want to respect people's expectations. And I think there will be a shift in how many days we're canceling, because not just considering whether the courthouse closes, which I feel like they close too much, and in fact has really impacted the state of Maine, how much the court closes with our whole system of justice. But I think that they close a lot, and so they aren't a good benchmark for us on closure. And I want to really consider the closure that happens at like what everybody else is doing in people that pay our salaries. Are they still going to work? And if they are, I think we should be as well. for the most part. And of course, if the courthouse is closed, there isn't public access, so we still are gonna have to make sure that we're broadcasting that in some way. So I know that we don't have a lot of foot traffic, but it is part of, obviously what we do. So we need to make sure the public's aware that they can still reach us by phone or email or whatever, but coming in isn't going to be an option when the court is closed, just for safety reasons. So I just, so I wanted to send that out. I also think that there's like this by default has become that somehow the chair gets to decide if the roads are safe or not. And I just feel like that is not a place for any one person to be making a decision about someone else's vehicle, their driving ability, and their local roads conditions. So I want to stress that every single person should always take their own safety as a highest priority in making decisions. And that it's not going to be me that says these roads are safe or these roads are not safe. It has to be a person deciding that for themselves. Is it safe for you yourself to drive, or is it not? Then absolutely be making those decisions. So I respect that people have the ability to do that for themselves, and I respect that they have the ability to do it better than I do for themselves. So I think that will change, and I just wanted, so even though the policy hasn't changed, it still remains exactly the same. I just think there will be a shift in the amount of closures that we have. Again, not benchmarking on the court system. So I'm welcome feedback, and even if you want to do it privately, when I sent out the letter, I made sure everyone had my phone number and my email. Happy to talk with anyone about that. Still going to be monitoring the weather, still talking with Zane about that. So sort of the process hasn't changed, but taking into consideration, what's happening out in the community as well. That part, that will be a shift in sort of process and perspective. So that's that, and happy to have any comments now if you want, or after is fine as well.
Go ahead.
Sure, this is actually a department head meeting, so maybe go ahead, Beth.
Sure, I just have a couple of general comments. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the date on the policy is 2007. And I would just suggest, as a matter of best practices, the policy should be periodically reviewed and considered against, the current, situation. And I would submit that the construction of the courthouse, the state's part, is a material change that has happened in the intervening time. And so, I understand not wanting to necessarily be lockstep, but I do think there should be some reference and consideration to that. It should be part of the mix of the consideration. And again, using, taxpayers as, the gold standard here. I can tell you anecdotally that people seem to be confused when the state is closed and the county is not, because I don't know that everyone appreciates that when there is a public announcement made that the South Paris courthouse is closed, that only means the state function and not necessarily the county function as well. And I know that there are people, for example, who have missed probate court hearings because they didn't understand that the county might be open when the state is closed. So if there's not going to be parity there, I think there needs to be considerable care taken to make sure that we're not confusing the public and doing a disservice to them by not being aligned with that consideration. And also, also interested in the other commissioners, because we got the letter from you, and I'm just curious, I guess, as far as part of the, decision making. I know that by default, the chair, has been consulted in this, but again, to me, a collaborative decision is always best, and I'm just interested in the other opinions and input from the commissioners as well.
Yes.
If I may, I'm just putting on my chief deputy hat here is please consider though that if we're open and the court is not, there's no first line of defense or security at the doors. And even though the sheriff and I will drop whatever we do to get over here, there is going to be a time delay and or our people are going to be out on the roads covering accidents and so forth and so on, is our guys are not trained. And by the time the state shuts down, we will not have the opportunity to call X, Y, and Z in here to cover that. And by the time, again, I'm not going to, the obvious is we have some nice people coming into this facility and we have some not so nice people coming into this facility. If there's a walk-in, and twofold is if the employee goes to the front door, that's a bad situation. If that person comes in to the office, that's an even more situation. Just stating the obvious that there should be some concerns for the people that are here working for the county.
Yeah, to just jump on that, I will not be opening the door for anyone and I will not be escorting them out. I'm not trained for that. That's not my job. And that is one thing. If you're going to let someone in, you better make sure you escort them out. Yeah, just leave it at that.
There are too many places to hide in this building. All the doors are not coded to be locked, so therefore people could hide. We had a situation about a month ago when Jen and her team saw a gentleman walking up to the door with a good 6 or 8 inch blade on his right side. And he went through the marshals. The marshals were able to take that from him. And then he ended up at my door and was reaching through the door to get at Darren and myself because he was not satisfied with the answers that we were giving him. The marshals could hear him talking and the marshals came down to assist us. That since 2007, because that addition has been put on, granted, we weren't used to the security prior to the marshals being here and the state side being there, but now we are accustomed to that security. And I feel strongly that since the Cross Building in Augusta has a marshal sitting at the door to allow anybody in without a badge, that should be the same expectation here for our employees, because those are the people that we're looking out for, the value of the employee. To piggyback on a little bit of what Beth had said, correct me if I'm wrong, but I walked into the MCCA meeting a few weeks back and Malcolm was talking about the risk pool. How much did our insurance policy go up this year? Was that like an 18% increase? And who pays for that? We do. So my concern is that the days that we tell our employees that they need to be here and we have 8 or a foot of snow, the plows aren't able to get in because of the small spaces and the vehicles that are parked there. Our 3 facilities people are out shoveling and sanding, and all of a sudden one of us falls or a public person falls. Nobody's there to see it. And then we get sued. How much more is that insurance policy going to go up? I feel as though we need to be proactive in that approach because it's the taxpayer, it's all of your constituents, it's my constituents that are all looking at us to be responsible with their funding. So I think that's a very valid point that we need to take consideration of. The other side of that is that the deeds office is a risk the record office. If I cannot get the mail, then I can't e-record and I can't wait on people at the window. Any one of those 3 pieces, if it's not available, I can't do the other 2 because of race to record, because of that law. On the snow days that we have had people in here and the court's been closed and we've been open, it's maybe $1,500 that we've brought through the doors. On a regular day, it's $16,000, $20,000. I feel as though that makes sense for us to all be in paying the salary. Granted, we would still be benefited by staying home, but the money that we're bringing in would offset what it would in that case.
I have a question and you probably may not have the answer today, but I'm just curious how many closures we've had in the last, each year, the last 3 years, maybe 4 years.
What? There would be one, yes. Yeah, sure, we can look that up.
I just think it would be good information to have for you folks.
Yeah.
I don't think it's
not that high. It's not exorbitant.
Not at all.
So.
I asked Zane for that information and he didn't have that readily available. I did ask the co-ops. And last winter, they were closed 7 or 9 days. I should have printed it and had it in front of me, but I asked for their days of closure for the last winter season, not this winter, but last winter. And it was 7 or 9 days, something like that.
Did they count the days that they closed middle of the day? Because they do that a lot.
They just sent me dates.
Yeah.
So it didn't specify, so probably, yeah. And I guess a part of the thing that, just to clarify, if we are open and the courthouse is closed, there will not be public allowed in the building. So we're not going to have people escorted in or out, like there just won't be public. And that's why we would absolutely have to, as Beth said, make sure that we're telling people as best as possible, right? Like it's closed to the public, but if they feel like it's not going to be open because the courthouse isn't going to be open, then they're not going to be showing up, but they would still be maybe calling or emailing or whatever. And I know that, there is work that happens, even when there's not a phone call or an email, there's still ongoing work that all of you do. That can be done, even though there may not be people walking into the building at that time. So I think that is an important consideration because yes, we do still pay everyone if we close or if we're open. So we still have that cost to the people. And now I just want to leave it to the other commissioners because you
have a question. Yeah, what about if somebody that lives away wants to work from home that day instead of a personal day or a vacation, and they do that?
I think that would be a different consideration and a different discussion, but we can have that discussion. Because that's an entirely different policy, so I can't match those two.
I would think, and I'm just going on past history. If the manager of that particular department doesn't have a problem with it, I don't think it's an issue.
Probably we should have it as a board discussion.
Yeah, because in the past, it's always been requesting permission. In the past, it's been requesting permission to allow that.
Yeah, I mean, as long as the office, somebody's in the office, if somebody is from, farther away, then.
So Beth, I believe you asked, and I don't mean to jump in, but what I used as the standard before to call it, or what the process was?
Well, I mean, because the letter that we all received came just from Lisa, I was just curious about the process or any discussion that had occurred at this particular time before that communication came to us as far as input from you and Commissioner Milne.
Did you send the letter to someone or just me? Okay, so she sent me the letter because I'm obviously been here the longest. And I reviewed it and I thought it expressed exactly how she felt. So I don't think I gave you any pointers. I said it expressed how you felt. And I haven't. Right. What I've always done is I would talk with the county administrator and we've obviously probably maybe 2 days before the storm, keeping an eye on the weather report. If we could find a way to open late or close early, we would try to do that. But if it looked like it was going to be a storm, it was going to be bad all day and the court was closed, then we would just close the building because I had the same security issues. And that's just my past. For those of you who don't know, I'm a retired state trooper, so security is a big deal to me. So if we do a screening, now that we have that luxury or that ability to screen, we need to take full advantage of it. So that was my.
Could I ask that maybe, given the security questions that come up today and your letter, which I haven't seen in 2007 policy, that this warrants more of a full discussion, updating the policy, interpreting how it impacts various components within our employee, and maybe have that discussion sooner rather than later, so that we're all on the same page. Would it be helpful to me as a first termer to know what the old policy said, what your letter said, and what we want to make clearer going forward. If we had all of that and an opportunity to discuss a new updated written policy and get input to it before we finalize, all of the questions that have been referred to today and concerns that you and Chair Turner have dealt with in the past.
Yeah, sounds good. We can, discuss it again another day. Okay.
And just one last thing like that is whatever decisions you make, I back fully, because that's the way it worked with the previous board. When a decision was made on whether we close or not, the other two would back our decision. So you have my full support on whatever you decide. But let's have that discussion so that we can refine it a little more. Okay.
The only other thing I wanted to add, which I just think is great news, is that our meetings are now going to be recorded. I mean, they've already been recorded and people can watch them live, but they're now going to be available to watch on YouTube even after the event. So, and the last meeting is up and able to be watched. So I think that's really good news. I think it's great for transparency and for people to be able to participate in the government. So I'm just kudos saying thank you for making that work.
It works out. Phew.
I know it's been a pull. It's fun how the easy things aren't always easy.
Right.
But yeah, so that's good news for us. And then, okay, so then just any other topics that Commissioner Millett, you want to have?
I'll do a brief update on things in Augusta. 3 weeks ago, we all had an opportunity to listen to the governor's state of the state. A week and a half later, her supplemental budget surfaced. Now we are in possession of the schedule for hearings on that budget. And the bad news is we have nothing to see in the budget for benefiting our flow of income, particularly for the jail operations fund, in spite of requests for substantial increases, even maintaining the level of funding we got in FY26. There's nothing in there. And the hearing on that portion, the corrections portion, will be next Wednesday, the 25th at 10 o'clock in the morning. It's going to be a long hearing, and obviously I think it's going to be an opportunity for those of us who feel that we're grossly underfunded on the corrections operation and the mandate portion called the medical assistance treatment payment left unaddressed. Very important that we be there. For those of you who would like to know what's in the budget entirely, I just made a copy of a summary for the show. Yeah, a few copies here. I'll leave them here in the corner, then anybody can pick them up if they'd like to. There are a lot of things in here that are not directly policy issues that come before us here, but there's a lot in there that I think you might want to be up to date on. Following the hearing and the work session today that Sherry mentioned, we have another issue, and that is that bill that Sherry referred to, LD 2154, being worked today, and it will cause us to lose 1.8% of what we would normally, prior to some adjustments last year, have retained locally as county income, 10% of the total amount received and credited monthly by our register to the state. It's now being divided up in ways that are clearly weighted toward housing. Both housed and unhoused persons are getting more and more of the share of the real estate transfer tax that has historically in the past gone 90% of the state, 10% retained by the counties. It's now being pretty much dominated by housing issues. And luckily we have a competent register and handles it well. I think Sherry does a good job as head of that association and will be at the work session today. I'm not optimistic that we can avoid the presumption that given the changes that Sherry referred to, the so-called mansion tax and the so-called removal of the seller and buyer burdens in the first home buyer area, that we're getting a so-called windfall. And we're losing money based on this bill. Hopefully we can sustain what we have now and not have to, see our retention amount shrink. But it is real money, and it is basically, no aspersions to Representative Lance. The legislature doesn't understand what the counties do. We do so many things that they dictate to us without an acknowledgement that by dictating, they are mandating. And by constitution and statute, they are supposed to fund mandate, and they are not. That is an issue that we need to keep hammering away at, and hopefully you'll get attention to a few people along the way. I think those are the only things that I wanted to cover on the legislative front. Sherry and Zane and I weekly zoom in on a legislative policy committee here meeting. And our lobbyists keep us informed of all of the bills, new and old, that are being scheduled for review and or hearing. So we'll do that every Monday at 1 o'clock. Today will be the day, given yesterday's holiday. So that's always important, and try to keep everybody informed of what's coming. This is a week where the legislature is not in session as a whole because of the vacation week and the beginning of the budget hearing. But there are a lot of old bills carried forward, new bills already being heard that are being worked. And things are on a pretty rapid schedule with an adjournment of April 15th and a whole lot of work, including a supplemental budget, which if you want the numbers, the bill spends $270 million of general fund money and over $325 million of monies taken out of the budget stabilization fund. That's a $600 million movement of money in this one bill that's being heard starting tomorrow through a week from Friday. And it really is an unusual broadening of state responsibilities and funding in a second regular session year. Obviously, it's a campaign year for a lot of people, but it's a scary prospect of looking at a general fund increase in excess of what we have for new revenues of $270 million, and another expenditure from a so-called, and I hate this word, it's being called the rainy day fund, but it's not. For nearly 20 years, it's been the budget stabilization fund, clearly designed only to be used when revenues decline and we are facing an economic downturn. None of that exists today. So all of this $325 million is being spent by the use of one word, notwithstanding. That is inserted in every piece of the language of this bill to say, that's what the law says, but now we're going to notwithstand it. And we're going to do what we want with that budget stabilization fund. I'm preaching to the choir, and I know that, but it's frustrating, and I can't wait for the adjournment date, Mike. That's all in my rant.
How about for you, Commissioner? All set. Okay, then that finishes up the department head portion of the meeting. So thank you all so much for your comments. TBD on all the concerns. We'll go back to you on concerns and make sure that we're addressing them. So it's 10:19 and we could do the sheriff's report if you're ready. All right, perfect. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
On the bottom, these vehicles have been assigned this week, so the new vehicles are just, the last new vehicle just got finished over the weekend. So all three of those new ones will be out. So this will be updated by the time our next meeting comes up. So.
Great job. Okay, thank you.
So I think we hit some of the high notes before with our end of year reporting, the Board of Business report. We'll make sure we get you the statistics for each. What are the best format is digitally, if you get them all or broken down by
It's easier just to give us all the districts. That's what is easier for you.
Yeah, and some of it's, if the format's too big, it's hard to email it, so they may have to break it down. So we've got that.
Competitive anyways. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's called.
Dana Thompson's not here. He's in Lubec this morning representing the sheriff's office and several others for a commemorative this morning, the 250th, recognizing the 250th anniversary of our country. And all the 16 sheriffs are there for sunrise coming up this morning and displaying the American flag, and that will get passed on to other states across the country. So that was nice to have him up there supporting us in a long drive this morning for him to get up there for that. I think unless you have any questions on operational updates, we've had a busy last couple of weeks. Some of that's coming up the little executive session, probably with contract negotiations. Also, I think it is today, you might bring something up.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the last meeting.
Did work quite a bit with Zane. I know he's under the weather, but still working on we had a couple meetings and input back and forth on the purchase or a vehicle, the enterprise. So you should have something for that as well. And I think what else we had going on. It's been pretty busy the last couple of weeks. But if you don't have any questions, we can move on to some of the agenda items.
We're good to go. What is saying, I think, I know we have here the Bethel contract and.
Yeah.
And we also. Okay, so we're.
Again, these contracts come up this time of year because both Bethel and Mexico are getting ready to go into their budget season. So they obviously would like to know. I've been discussing some other things with Sharon Jackson up in Bethel, and she indicated to me it'd be really nice to set this price early so that she could be working on her budget. It was a $4,497 change in the sheriff's budget, which is one of the big driving factors for that number that we set. It is also set by wages, and the wages haven't changed because we're currently in contract negotiation. So I think it might be prudent in order to set this price until June and then look at it changing after that with any kind of pay raise that the deputies might get, thus allowing both Mexico and Bethel to budget for at least half of the year, knowing that that's a fixed number of what they had last year.
And just to add to that, normally that's what we've done. I think Tim could speak up too, that we usually keep it fixed because of their budget year to at least the July, the first half. And then the other input is the sheriff's office budget was pretty much flat across the board this year. There was very little.
Yeah, that's how we asked because they need to set their budget.
We need to be able to give them by a date in February, March, I think, by the contract that we're running on.
We were supposed to have it by March. It is
March 1st, I think.
It is different under some of our newer contracts, and they have not.
I think you'd be safe by going with the same amount that you've calculated last year, for sure, sticking with that same number.
June 30th of this year. Till June 30th of this year. Are you talking the coming year?
I think also coming year, but definitely, we've already gave them that number. Last year, we would have given the number already up until June 1st. This year was the 473 and 18 cents that Zane can probably recite.
My only concern is the contract negotiation, but again, I don't know where that's gonna lie. At this point, the 168, 466, 22 number is a good solid number. I looked at it a couple of different ways. The 4,497 is actually, when we figured it out for the towns, it's only an 18% of that, which is, very marginal. You do the whole thing in order to capture that amount, is, probably self-defeating.
So go ahead. Solomon.
Well, just to follow up, so are you and the sheriff suggesting that we communicate with the Bethel Town Manager and the Select Board in Mexico that the cost from July 1 of this year through December 31 will be 168 or 6622,
Yes.
and that we will inform them of any adjustments that might
Come after that, which would be,
months of 20,000.
which would be the new contract with the, deputies. And once we do this, we're hoping for a 3-year contract so that we can kind of outlay that, path forward better. Yes, but I hate to hold them up. For trying, it creates animosity between us.
Do you think then that will satisfy the Bethel Town Manager's request? If we put that formally in communication with the two towns?
I do. think so.
And you'd also have an ability to adjust if we needed to, later on, but I think the way it looks with the contract negotiations, but definitely within the budget, we basically flat funded this year for the sheriff's office. We added revenue, potential for another contract, but yet we haven't expended that either. So we're definitely going to be, projected pretty good for this coming year. So, the contract negotiations coming up, that would be the only factor, but yet that's projecting out, for several years. And we'll be in contract negotiations for a while.
For a couple of months at least, yeah.
So typically, and I know this isn't a guarantee, but typically when does the contract end? It's ended now currently?
No, so it would end, typically it ends or renews with their budget year, which would be June 30th or July 1. But within the
Whose
contract,
budget year?
the towns, the
No, I
towns.
mean sorry, let me clarify, our union contract, when does that end? Is that,
Ours has already ended,
it's already ended,
It's already
okay, so
ended.
that.
but it won't renew until we've come to a agreement.
Right, but I guess my concern here is that if we then say we're going to give them back pay to January 1, 2026, and yet we hold the price steady a year and a half for the towns. That's a year and a half that we are paying, that every other town in Oxford County is helping to pay for these contracts, so that.
We don't want to get back into the version of supplementing that, and that's again why we.
I just didn't know why we're waiting so long. Like, we're gonna know by June of this year what our number is gonna be, for sure.
So if I do, mind if I just jump in? So our contract that we have with these towns, that we're supposed to give them the cost breakdown worksheet by March 1st of each year. So we have to give them that number by March 1st by the contract that the county signed with them, because they have to have that for their town meeting to appropriate those funds. So I get your point, but when you put it on a calendar and look at it, we're on a calendar year and they're not. So
They're on fiscal.
They're in the fiscal year. So when it comes to January of this year, we've had some expenditures, you could add it on to our, because we've got to deal with our budget year. My budget is from January 1 to December 31st. So if we have some large increases this year, then in March of next year, you could reflect those for next year's, you could recoup. Do you know what I'm saying? Because it will be, again, our budget year. So we can recoup some next year if need be. But again, the percentage of the salary line in that is, we figure, would you say 18%? So if there's a 2% increase, that's very minimal in that. So there's a way to recoup it.
I think salary is the largest part of our contract with the towns. That's the biggest, so.
But it's about equal. Did you say it was 18% in that?
Well, I was talking about right now, the difference between what it comes down to is that out of your budget, which increased by $4,497, 18% of that is the town of Bethel, which is $809. and to reformulate it over $809, you would divide that out to that 168, 466, 22 number, and it would.
I agree that that is small numbers, but what is coming with our change in, while we're negotiating our hourly rate, that might end up being, if we carry that a year and a half, that could be a substantial number. And I highly doubt that if we then tell Mexico and Dixfield, we, your contract actually cost us this much for the last year and a half that you didn't pay. I don't think they're gonna say, okay, well, we'll pay it now. Because again, that's passed and their budget has passed. So I'm just trying to figure out a way that we can cut this a little closer to the timing, so we're not, the county's not carrying it so long. And yet,
Certainly say to her that we would honor the price in June to January, and then in January that we would have to reflect a increase in their cost to carry them through the next 6 months. So we would bring it down to that. And that's kind of like along the lines of what I was originally thinking. I missed.
okay, so can I just clarify one thing? So our current contract says that we'll give them the number by March 1st,
We're supposed to give them the number by March 1st.
which they,
We did it last year and they had a little bit of an issue with it.
understandably, I understand. So I just want to double check that. And the other thing I want to, the other thing I wanted to double check is in our contract, do we have language in there if our costs go up, that also has to be reflected?
We do.
So in essence, if we say it's this, but we just went through union negotiations and now it's this, our contract allows for that.
It does. It's, it's not the nicest thing to do to somebody. And that's why, again, I was suggesting that we hold this number for the first 6 months of the contract and then let them know that there will be an increase in the second, but it'll only be dealing with the wages. And that will get us through to the final part of that year. Because again, we're not going to re-up the sheriff's budget before that point either.
Right. Right.
Oh, no, I was just saying hi to Pat. But my 2 cents again is that I think you'd be, we've all signed an agreement with these towns to give them that information by March 1st. So I think it's prudent to stick with the same number that you figured out last year. And then if there's an adjustment, we could make it at the end of this year for the beginning of next year for January, let them know that there would be an increase. But we're on track this year for revenue already. I mean, and we're expenditures, we haven't filled some of those vacancies. So we are back a little bit.
I just, that suggestion then leaves the county paying the overage for a full year. I just feel like if we're gonna pay an overage, I'd like to keep it at the 6 month mark, not the year mark. I think that's too long to make the other taxpayers supplement those contracts. I don't.
Isn't that Zane's proposal? 6
Yeah.
months? Yeah.
Well, to get us through to June to January with the current number, and then let Sharon know that we would be probably expecting an increase, but it would be regarding the wages. That would be an easy calculation to make. I did that the last time that I made this because we formulated that number. It was 150 something. We gave the raise, and the raise brought it up to 168. So it's an easy calculation for me to do to get that number with whatever we get for a pay raise.
But then that's actually a year. That's a year before their costs increase.
Well, we would be.
Because our contract has already ended.
Right.
So we,
Well, our contract with them, it doesn't end until.
I'm sorry, our union contract. So at this point, whatever we give for a increase to the union is not figured in what they're paying now.
Right.
And then.
If we pay retro.
Right, if we pay retro. But at some point, hopefully the contract negotiations aren't ongoing for, too terribly long. Like I get there a couple of months, but that's what I'm seeing though, is that if we paid retro, we would be January 1, 2026 to then to December 31st, 2026. So it would be an entire year. That's the number that I'm trying to shorten, is that we would carry that.
Right, you're right. If we give retro, we are we're giving them that 6 months From June until January for your.
And truly, we haven't budgeted for that. I mean, if you look at our budget, it's pretty tied to what our numbers are, what we're taking in, we're spending out, and we're keeping it as tight as possible. So for us to take that many deputies and pay 8 months of extra off your budget that isn't being reimbursed by those towns, that also puts your budget over.
Yeah, and typically I think that you folks have budgeted for that in another part of the line, part of the county's budget. So they're already paying a portion of that. But it comes down to that you folks have to, by contract, give them a number and the cost analysis by March 1st. We've already provided the cost analysis and the number. If it doesn't change, I think you'd be good. Right, then you've already
Only
given.
changes $809. We can.
Right.
So
I
You
guess
get
so.
all for the meeting before it.
So
And-
I'm just wondering if we set a different expectation, though, that their costs will change sooner than January.
Yeah, the only thing that I could really do is I could go back and take a look at where we think the contract's gonna end and put that number in there as what we feel. And that could go one of two ways.
And I don't think we're fine.
One of two ways, that's. And I'd like to say that Sharon's gonna be patient. We have some other things we're negotiated with them too, and I think she's.
Yeah, I want to be, I want to be absolutely fair in this, but I also know that we have to watch our budget as well. And to take, worst case scenario is we'd be taking a year of extras of whatever the increase is, and we'd be taking it on. And I guess maybe it's an executive session question, and maybe should work it out with Lindsay a little bit so we can see those numbers.
Work out a little bit different,
Because that was one of the questions I had for Lindsay anyway today, was just, there's a couple of other areas that, the insurance, as was mentioned previously, we have some overages and probably in paying the probate. So I just want to make sure that we're watching all these lines and not just making a decision that is expedient, but is looking at the impact.
Yep.
Because otherwise, I don't know exactly how to tell them by March 1st for, we
I'll
kind of.
get on the phone with her and tell her to, she's usually very reasonable. So we'll tell her that when Lindsay gets back, we'll work up some different numbers and then we can discuss with the commissioners, probably like you said, in an executive session, because it's a contract of what we can do for them. Yep.
And then can we do this by for the March 1st deadline?
Our next meeting is
No, I could have a special just on this one topic.
Yeah.
maybe we'll have some good contract news.
Next Wednesday, we have negotiations.
Maybe we could do a special meeting to do that. I think it's worth it because it's Bethel and it's Mexico, and I just want to treat them fairly through that week.
Yeah, no, we worked very hard to get out of that situation where we were funding too low. So we don't want to go back, and I understand that. So we'll see what to do. We'll work on those numbers.
I'd have to do it by teams
Yeah.
because I'm working, but I can. I can do it from work.
Commissioner Mullen?
Well, I was wondering, given our March 1 deadline and given my desire to put everything in writing and be as honest as we can with our two contracted towns, it wouldn't be better, rather than pick up the phone and call, to have something in writing saying, this is what we see for the balance of calendar 26, and you can count on it, and we will notify you before March of 27 what the second 6 months of that contract with you will cost, and make the wording honest and clear and let you sign it. If that wouldn't achieve our goal, and we negotiate with that background knowledge in hand, that we haven't got a lot of money to give retro, payments and bargaining is a give and take. But to meet our contractual obligations, I guess I would prefer to put something in writing. Stipulating this is what we see for July 1 through December 31 and 26. And we'll notify you before March 1 and 27 what the second fiscal year looks like based on where we stand with budget and bargaining.
I
Put it
think,
in writing.
yeah, I think that would do it and be fair to Lisa's point and yours to all the taxpayers, but they need to know what the number is and that if there's a chance it changes in January, by March, we'll know at the end of the year, this coming year, the budget expenditures, and they'll be able to adjust anything. But basically, we're talking about salary adjustments just for the deputies assigned to those towns.
And we're also talking, well, we should the contract, we could probably, as soon as the day after we settle on a contract, we can tell Bethel what the.
Project it. Yeah.
Okay, so then we will have the executive session on this before March 1st and get some updated numbers from Lindsay. Is that, and that way we'll have something and we'll put it in writing and we'll make sure we have the five measures.
Good.
Is that good? Okay. All right. And then we'll just figure out a date for that after Zane lets us know because Lindsay is not available this week.
Right.
Okay. And just, oh, that's later in the program. Okay, all right, so reassignment of deputy.
Yeah, so some of this we've discussed, we have the packet, we went through the process to select deputy from patrol to go to investigations. If you recall, it was we had the chief deputy on that along with the major, district attorney and a supervisor D from the town of Brunswick. Interviewed 3 candidates, rated them, and the first one for the opening was Dennis Lowe. So we're looking to reassign him for the date in March that we anticipate to 2 investigations, and the next order of business would be to hire his replacement. So I guess more of just an acknowledgement that he's being reassigned to that, and that the admin here would know that there's a change in his pay at that point, and then kind of acknowledge the opening. So we could look at hiring replacement. Thank you. And I tried to shorten it, but I know we had these discussions.
We did,
executive
absolutely,
session, so,
yes, yeah. I appreciate you sort of giving the recap, but yes, we.
And I think it's really important to do the way that you've asked to do it, so that we almost forget to think about doing that change of assignment for pay, so they can go with his personnel file. So we've got that. So that's a good, I guess, moving forward, that's a good point.
Just to clarify, the date, so Lowe was 23rd and Bodie's the 1st.
So Bodie would be the 1st of March,
Okay.
just because he's coming from corrections to
Yeah.
patrol. And then, I'm sorry,
We have the 23rd for Dennis, is that correct?
that's what we
Okay.
anticipated, yes, yeah. We'll give us a couple of weeks out for notice and the shift bidding. So, yes, yeah. So they'll put that out today, 10, and by that date. Perfect.
Can we have a motion then on Bodie Gray?
We want to start with Dennis Lowe first.
Oh, I thought we
Yeah.
only acknowledged.
Just
me.
acknowledge it.
Isn't it? Basically, we have a motion to acknowledge.
Oh, yes.
Oh, we
Yeah,
do?
yeah.
Okay, perfect.
I move that we recognize the promotion, assignment of Dennis Lowell from deputy to investigator, effective
The 23rd
the 23rd of March, with a pay rate of $37.93.
So paper.
And then the next one, Madam Chair, is, I know you've seen it before, and he's coming from part-time, started a corrections officer for many years, part-time patrol deputy going to full-time, and I know you've had the packet before you several times with this change of status. So that's what we have. We can answer any questions you might have, but very well qualified young man.
He's gonna be completely leaving the jail then, right, at this point?
As of the first, I believe, yeah.
That's the last article we have.
Ready for a motion? All right, I move that we authorize the hiring of Bodie Gray as a full-time deputy effective March 1st, 2026, with starting rate of $30.62 an hour.
Great, as outlined in the conditional job offer, and all those in favor. Good.
Yes, that gotta be a good,
Unfortunate for you.
I just wanted to ask if you're going to authorize the opening.
oh, yes.
Yes.
I anticipate it's gonna be a part-time corrections officer moving to a full-time spot.
So, yeah, authorize the posting of a full-time position for corrections. Yeah. So moved.
All right, all those in favor.
The next one is just a little quick update on the checklist to have allowing the chief to apply for this grant for body cameras. Obviously save our budget line, but so it's just approval of him applying for it. If we are granted that, then of course it comes back to you folks to approve that.
So we'll be reviewing the application.
Yeah, just reviewing it.
Yeah.
We offering to apply for it, just allowing him to apply for it. There's no harm, no foul, hoping to get it. And then if we do accept the grant or we get it chosen for the grant, approved for it, then it comes back to you folks to, you would have to approve it in order for us to accept that grant. So you get the
Right.
full packet at some point.
And that's the 48,000 that's already budgeted for this, if it comes through, or is that not?
We have to use our 48,000 that we have budgeted for 2026 and apply it towards this. In turn, would be getting, if approved, 642,000.
And then would we need more in 2027, or is that
This-
48,000 cover it?
No, the 48,000 we would probably lose. But having said that, the 642, if we got the whole thing, this will last us 5 years.
Yeah, it would.
This is a 5-year program through Axon that will basically supplant any purchases or anything. Going to the number 35, we currently have 27. I went 35 to anticipate the job study and all that stuff. Best case scenario, we have 35 deputies within that 5-year period. This will cover that with all the attachments, the storage fees, everything we could for a 5-year period.
So but to answer a question I think she's getting to is that if the grant was accepted in full, it would reduce the amount of money up in the following years that we need to raise from taxes. So
Right, so we would use the whole 48,000 aside.
Yeah.
But would we be required for more match later on? No,
This,
okay.
if we get the 642, it's a match or dollar for dollar match. So we'd be, whatever we expend, we'll be getting it back to the amount that we're awarded.
Okay, right, that was my confusion, because when I saw dollar for dollar match, I thought it meant we pay $1, they pay $1. Not, it's like almost this is majority reimbursed. Because we're only paying 48,000. Okay, okay.
and we'll also have a second chance to review it if we were selected to accept it.
Okay.
And it'll be, I'm sure be a lot clearer in that document if we accept it, but.
And the 48
that's our
is just
understanding.
this year. It's not next year, or
Right,
5 years.
right.
Yeah.
Understood. And then the company, I think maybe I looked at this already.
Because the Axon is kind of the only name in the game
That provides the cameras. Yeah, I looked them up. That's right. I did look them up yesterday to see if they had any Chinese ownership.
I'm sorry, any.
Chinese ownership.
I'm sure the stockholders maybe, but I know it's a US.
It is. I looked into it.
Yeah.
I did. Good.
So just-
Okay, so do we need to vote on, I think you've already applied, have you or no? Oh,
I
okay.
can't unless you approve it.
Okay, I thought we talked
I've
about it
gone
once
down this road
before.
no.
I think we talked about, we were waiting for this information.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So I will make a motion that we give the chief deputy permission to apply for this grant for body cameras. Small SRT.
All right, all in favor?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Resignation of part-time commission officer. Oh, is that the same?
That's. no,
Oh.
that's-
Oh, right.
We give the 2-week notice.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Okay. Perfect, thank you. Okay, great, so. Employee anything standing.
Accept the resignation of Andrew Dameron as a full-time corrections officer, part-time corrections officer.
He's going on to law enforcement and to patrol in another agency, it looks like, so.
Yeah.
And you second?
Second the motion.
Okay, all those in favor?
Madam Chair, there's one, if I can just have an alibi to go back up on updates, if I could.
Yeah.
I just wanted to give you a heads up. I spoke to Zane Friday afternoon about having, I had a meeting last week with Neil Wilson, the chaplain. You might be familiar with Neil. I think he went up to Augusta and you had him,
Oh, pray for opening.
yes, yeah, and he was originally from Dixfield, but he's from Lovell, had a congregation in
Yeah.
Dixfield. He's been asked to speak at do the invocation and benediction of Maine Sheriff's Association meeting in Bethel. Had a great conversation with him, and he's a certified chaplain through the Maine Criminal Justice Academy. He's been through the training. So we've been reviewing, we have a policy within the Sheriff's Department that covers that. We've had a chaplain in the past, but I've grabbed a copy of a job description from, even though it's volunteer or job description from Somerset County and a couple other ones. So I'm gonna have we've been reviewing them. We're gonna ship them over to Zane. And at some point, maybe at a workshop, we may ask that you folks review that. And we would assign someone as a chaplain.
Yeah.
And if it's an interview process, we'd obviously include you folks and follow policy. But I think just important before we do too much, other than inviting him as a guest speaker, that we have policy reviewed, or at least the job description reviewed by you folks. So.
Is it a job you would post?
Well, I guess that would be go back to you folks. We'd interview other people who are interested, but I find it very beneficial to have someone here with the agency with it, not only for the employees, as we deal with so many things, as you hear us give you the updates they deal with so many things out there. And the program is also beyond just the spiritual. It's about programs out there, just getting out there, helping our employees with stressful situations, and even being brought to the scene to help citizens with that. So it's beyond the faith. It's got to do with a lot of other things. So it's a very great program. It's been recognized, and most other agencies have one around the state. But I just think that before we jump into it, that you folks should look at a job description, so to speak, even if it's a volunteer status, and make sure we're following all that, so we don't accidentally jump into something. So I just want to give you that heads up. Didn't surprise you, but had that opportunity, been putting it off, and had a good opportunity to meet with him last week. So hopefully I'll get something to Zane and Abby the next few days, get their input, and see if they could get something you could look at and we could discuss further down the road. So.
Right.
Yep.
Dana, do we need to have an opening posted for the part-time corrections or no?
No, we've been taking applications for part-time already.
Oh, right, yes, that's right. I remember that. Yes.
And then the last thing is, I've got to go to Mexico again, the school this afternoon. I think the only executive session that may involve me would be the contract updates.
Yeah. And we've got
I think,
numbers, yeah.
yeah, and I think Tim and Zane are more than, can do that. I can reschedule, do something different, but I really feel like Tim's got it and Zane. And it was all positive, and
It's their request anyways, it's only changed.
Yeah.
So.
And then we've got a meeting next Wednesday, I think it is. So, yeah. And lastly, so you talked about having an executive session or setting the rate for the towns. And when did you think that might be? And it might be a Teams meeting, you said?
Well, I'll have to attend my Teams.
What date did you think? Tentative or?
We didn't do a date yet. Oh, we didn't do a date yet because
Lindsay won't be back until next week.
Okay.
we have to,
We'll be cutting it to the wire pretty close.
Yeah.
I think we will have to commit ourselves to making.
Yeah, I do
Yes,
think that last sentence, I think Solomon's kind of suggestion covered what you were sentiments in both, I think. So, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else?
We are continuing on the enterprise thing, just go along with that. I did have a meeting with him on Friday, I think it was Thursday or Friday. He was gonna give us numbers. The new numbers with the new number of vehicles has gone into their formula. They're really good numbers. They're a significant amount of savings for us. We have to look, down the road a little bit. But one of the other things that I was reaching out to Ryder and Penske and seeing if they would, and I was having a real runaround with them. And the guy at Enterprise that was on said, yeah, you're gonna have problems with that. They really don't offer an apples per apples. But one of the things that he did offer was that they participate in Sourcewell. Enterprise Rental does, and what it is, it's a contract that guarantees you that that their prices are competitive. It's a corporate purchasing structure, which guarantees you, and they would be willing to sign a Sourcewell contract with us. So I'm gonna look a little bit. I've got a little bit more digging to do into that, but that's one of the things that they talked about with us, with me on Friday.
Did you say Enterprise said they're willing to?
Enter into a contract, a Sourcewell contract with us, in order to guarantee that we're getting the best price on cars, maintenance, and fuel when it comes to that. And again, the numbers are really good. The newest proposal was for 8 cruisers to be replaced. I looked at it and I asked them to give me a price for 8 and for 10 because of our maintenance cost is still pretty high with that 8, and I was thinking to get it down a little bit lower if they had 10 new.
It looks good. I was skeptical, looked at it again, and the projections for down the road would lower the number of cars we need. I think that the big source for them is helping us get rid of our used fleet and obtaining the new ones. So I think it could work for us, and I think it could save money. I'm not sure that's going to save the 1.3 million that they're projecting. But I do think it could definitely save us some money, especially in the fleet, having that aged fleet, we're spending so much on maintenance.
Yeah.
So next week is March, and then if we do things, we need to make some type of decision fairly soon. So if you folks had time on your next workshop meeting, if we could block off some time, and hopefully Zane can give you any updates, but I'd really like to see us.
Yes, and I did again talk with them about that. Like, even if we entered the contract right now, or say a month from now, would they be able to source us these vehicles? And he was he did say that he didn't want to drag it into the summer because then he would start running into issues as to holding the price on the sourced vehicles. So
Because the production run stops, and I don't want to wait. If we wait until September, October to get cars, then I'm just afraid we're gonna spend so much on maintenance. So
And then I guess, so yeah, let's set this for our next meeting. If you have the information in front of us, I mean, part of it is.
I will, because I'm pretty sure he's already sent me the updated, and I printed off the Sourcewell stuff, so I'll get this out to you folks. So that you can review it to see if you're comfortable with that. Again, the only thing that'll take me more time is just trying to round up somebody from Penske, Ryder. There was another one, but there wasn't nothing that they seemed to be showing me was an apples to apples. This is more of an equity thing than a car rental type kind of thing. So again, keep working on it.
Yeah, and so then the question I will want answered to when we do have that next discussion is just how does this fit in our budget for this year? Like if we make the change.
Like really well.
Yeah, that does.
Like really well.
Oh, perfect. I'm so glad to hear
The
it.
first year is probably $200,000 savings.
The savings is big the first year.
Yes, but we're gonna need to carry it over because at some point
Of
in
course.
3 or 4 years,
Right.
it does, you
Yes.
catches up.
Yeah, we can't.
But I'd love to think that we could get you all kinds of information. We had a productive workshop at our next meeting. That we'd answer any questions you might have to make some type of decision in the regular schedule in March. So about a month from now, it would be nice. if we could. And the gentleman that runs a program for New England lives in Auburn, so we get that extra attention. So he's willing to come.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, do you want him for the next meeting or at some point?
He would be totally, I probably will set him up for the next meeting, get you folks all this stuff to read up on it. And then get him to come and present. His name is Anthony Wu, and he's absolutely right. He lives right in Auburn, and it's actually quicker for him to come here to meet with us than it is for him to go to his office and Teams us. So.
Perfect, good.
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 Thank you. Thanks. Oh, and the last thing is we don't close 24/7. So even if you close, we're still open with the sheriff's office. So snow day doesn't really affect us too much. So.
Feel safer knowing that, thank you.
Thanks.
Somewhat safer. Okay, so it is 11 o'clock, but I'm going to have a bio break. So we'll have 5 minutes and then we'll start back. An update on the ARPA audit, which you did mention briefly, Lindsay.
Yes, can you hear me okay?
You can.
Yes. The only thing to add to what we mentioned before about the ARPA audit, they did make a verbal comment on the audit that will not show up as a finding, but that we should enhance our processes around our procurement process to add in suspension and debarment checks for our vendors who will be working on federal grants. So I will be proposing in the future an amendment to our procurement policy just to add in that language so that we're covered in future audits.
And that procurement policy will come to us, or is it something you just update on your end?
Yes, I believe it will come to you.
Everybody,
Yeah.
we'll do that. We have a procurement policy for all.
Okay.
All things buying.
Good. Thank you so much, Lindsay. I know it was said earlier by Beth, but we just appreciate all of your work, and we're in such good hands with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, staffing and finance office is the next on the agenda. Who wants to take the lead on that?
Yeah, the issue. So, and again, I think today is somewhat illustrative of that. So Lindsay is away, but has to run payroll today. And that is because there is no one else in the office to run payroll. As you know, in addition to Lindsay and some of the functions that I do, we also have a temp who's been doing processing some of the accounts payable. But Lindsay and Zane and I had a discussion, and we don't feel that this is a long-term solution because for a couple of reasons. One, we need an employee in there who's not a temp, who's invested and engaged and making sure, the office succeeds and providing great service for the county. And we feel that a full-time county employee would be better served to do that. Again, as I just mentioned, we need to have a backup for some of Lindsay's functions so that she can actually go away on a day that payroll needs to be run and there's someone else in the office to run it. Also, I would just say that the volume of work has really exceeded what can be done by Lindsay, even with, the bits that I do and the bits that our temp does. We have always budgeted anticipating that there would at least be a part-time person. And we sort of scraped by, and I've tried to help us scrape by, for savings. But at this point, I don't think we're being served by that anymore. So we would like to discuss with you hiring a full-time position that would replace the temp. And then again, I don't think we should have the discussion in a silo, but as we discuss the treasurer's duties and salary, and depending on what direction you want to go there, certainly some of the things that I do could be subsumed by that person as far as the and transfers and some of the other things that are done. So I think at this point, we're just having a high level discussion about it.
Right. Because we basically mesh several things together right now. Is that we use Lindsay obviously as our full-time finance director. But we have a temp agency which has been filling in for about a year, which provides us some accounts payable. We also utilize Darren twice a month in order to write our warrants and do our warrants. And because of those two silos there with that, is that the communication is not as good as it should be between all of us, myself, Lindsay, and the temp, and Darren. And we've had a couple of holes that have kind of worked their way through. They've been fine. They've not been anything major, but we've just been concerned that if we keep up with the practice how we're doing it, that as we get busier and busier, which it seems to be, that we might create some issues. And when I say busier, Lindsay's been taking on a lot of extra responsibilities since what was originally put on that bill. She's now doing our CRAS and Jim's numbers, which is all of the financial reporting for the jail, to keep up on that. She's taken over, the UT and is doing that budget. And now with that, we're getting lots of different audits. The audit for the jail, a new audit for the jail that's come forward that we have to do on a regular basis. And again, with accounts payable, I'd like to say it's getting simpler, but our vendors have not made it simpler for us. And we get crazy bills from US Cellular. Just a lot of moving parts. BEU has been a difficult company to deal with as of late. And we overpaid them by $1,000 or so, which we ended up figuring out. But again, if we didn't have the time and resources, that kind of would have that's one of those things that I say that I was concerned about, is that we did take the time, we did figure it out. However, going forward, as it gets busier, and it's going to get busier, I'm worried about us losing our place with some of these things. That's I guess that runs into what Beth was saying is that I think that a full-time person in there would have some great continuity, and could also take on some things from Lindsay at Lindsay's direction, could do the warrants and could be involved in the payroll. I think that that's important. I can do payroll, but like today, I wasn't going to be able to sit here and do payroll and have this meeting today. So that, that complicates things too. And, I do think that Lindsay's doing a fabulous job. I don't want to see her get stretched so thin that we create an issue.
I would also add that we had looked at numbers, specific numbers, and there is budget for a full-time salary in there with what we've budgeted between the temp and a potential part-time position. And so this wouldn't be a surprise budget item. It's already accounted for if you were to approve going that route.
So add a little bit of past history. There's been twice. You went through the first one where suddenly we had nobody who could do anything in the treasurer's office. Literally, we couldn't pay people. We couldn't do anything. We got through it somehow. I think what it is, we just paid people until we figured it out. Then move forward. And then it happened again. It happened twice.
Yeah.
So it was a past history of having people qualified and able to do the job temporarily while we.
And before I came in too, there were 2 full-time people in the office. And because of that sort of emergent situation where we didn't have anybody again, I stepped in and we just, started this process of cobbling things together. And we're still sort of operating on this cobbled system of drawing resources from different places. And at this point, I think it's time to retire that way.
Yeah, because before we had a deputy treasurer and an office clerk.
We kind of said that we wanted to wait and see how some of these systems that we put in helped us out. And although I think that these systems that we've put in are good at getting us close to there. I really do feel at this point that a full-time, full-time spot would.
I haven't decided either way on this, but I think it's something we seriously have to look at.
Yeah, we would, I guess at this point, just ask that you consider it,
Yeah.
based on what's been presented.
Let's get some more numbers and look at it. Yeah, I don't want to go through that again. That was.
No,
Probably some of
again, I can't overstate the need for a backup in the office. You know, even if it wasn't that Lindsay wanted to go on vacation, what if she was, you know, critically ill for a period? And again, as Zane said, we can run payroll in a pinch, but it's not an ideal situation to not have, you know, some parallel skills in the office, for those contingencies.
Good question, just you, Beth, and Zane too. I'm looking at the admin finance budget for the year, and in addition to Lindsay's position and your treasurer's line number, we have 300,000 for the full-time staff and $139,000 item for part-time staff. Is that the temp, the 39?
No, the 39 is an actual part-time, and then in business services is actually where the temp is. So a few lines down from where you're at is the business services. And I think that was right around 30,000, because I think Beth and I looked at those two line items and realized that, you know, that we could do a full-time, if we eliminated the business line services and eliminated the part-time and put that all, you know, in the full-time, we really wouldn't be changing the budget any. We would just be utilizing those two lines in a different way.
So where I'm headed is Darren's position in the part-time staff or in the full-time staff, split with registry deeds. And within the three lines, the full-time, the part-time, and the business services, do you and Beth see the potential for a full-time staff within those numbers?
Yes. In other words, this full-time staff person we would no longer need the part-time person, which we've never had. The temp, which we have had, and we would not need Darren any longer. This person would fill that role that we've kind of, again, hodgepodging together a little bit. And it has worked, and it has worked for some time. The communication is just not where I'd like it to be. I'd like it to be a little bit higher.
And there's not been in recent years a deputy treasurer.
No, there's, the position has been there, but you didn't.
Right, so here's my philosophy, and I didn't do this to preclude the ability of any future treasurer to do it. But I like to approach things from a practical standpoint. And to me, trying to carve out, you know, sort of a power structure where the treasurer was overseeing a deputy treasurer or putting a deputy treasurer in does not make any sense to me. I think it makes a lot more sense to have a professional finance person in there, separate and apart from the political system, who reports to the administrator who is in the office every day and overseen by the administrator. And so since I've been here, that's the way we have structured the office. So I guess technically, if you gave her the title, Lindsay could be deputy treasurer, but she's fulfilling that role, but to me, in a more professional and independent way, you know, someone who has the title deputy treasurer would be.
There was actually a policy change back in, I think it was 2019, to like solidify that, because there was, issues with communication between the treasurer at that time.
Right.
It was difficult to work with the deputy who wouldn't, so they purposely made that, so, and it's been working well.
Yeah.
So I want to pursue your successful tenure, Beth, and the future in regard to what we looked at earlier and these folks testified on in terms of appointed versus elected. And the piece that we were given last fall in convention, which also delineates the duties of the treasurer and in sections 183, 181, 2, and 3. And I'm wondering, clearly the background requirements that stipulate where you or your successor would come from to keep the books and accounts on forms and in a manner approved by the Office of State Auditor, with all county receipts and payments to the commissioners, and be the official accounting overseer of the books. And then it also says at the end of each fiscal year, in cooperation with the commissioners, each treasurer shall make a statement of the financial condition of the county and shall publish in pamphlet form a reasonable number of copies for distribution among the citizens, including showing the detail of all money received and paid out of the county treasurer, including a statement of unclaimed inheritance, division among accounts, federal funds, facts, and statistics. I've not seen that, and I just wonder, in the job description that you have and the statutes that we've looked at, is the line between you and the finance staff clear enough, in your opinion, to delineate what is the oversight role of the treasurer versus the day-to-day work and responsibility of the staff?
I guess my first comment would be, I don't have a job description. Like, I was never given a job description. And again, going back, to the particular circumstances when I stepped into this office, I just took on what needed to be done, not disregarding, what the requirements were, but taking on some other things. My understanding historically, before me, and I can't speak how far back it goes, is that the treasurer role has always been one of oversight and not one of a day-to-day accounting. That has been handled by deputy treasurer or now finance director. So that day-to-day accounting, as far back as I know, was not handled by a treasurer. And please correct me if there's, more history to be known here.
It was done by the deputy treasurer.
Yeah. So again, it was done by, a full-time, finance role in the office. Obviously, per statute, the ultimate responsibility lies with the treasurer to be responsible for that person and making sure that work is getting done. As far as the specific information presented, the budget to actuals and the year-end financials, I think cover that. If you want to see it in a different format, we can certainly do that. I did bring in here today because I know there's been a question about wrapping up the books. And I want to make absolutely clear that this is in no way Lindsay's fault, that it has not been, wrapped up and tied with a bow, because today I got, and I'm not throwing the DA's office under the bus, but I got from Androscoggin County, our fourth quarter portion of what we pay for the DA's office. And I just got that invoice today. I know we've had discussions previously about how it can take months for us to get invoices from where we have prisoners boarded out in other jails. So there are many mechanical reasons outside our control why we can't on December 31st shut the books and say, here's the year-end financials. So to the extent things are lingering a bit, because I know you've asked for it, and I don't want you to feel like we're being non-responsive, but there are these stragglers that come in so that we can't do a final at the last day of the year. It's going to take, probably till, sometime in March for us to say, all right, we're confident that every single bill is in and we can give you that. So slightly long-winded answer, but yes, I mean, it's always our intention to, present the financials transparently so that everyone knows what bills have been paid and where the money has gone and so forth. So, but to the extent you feel that that is not clear and want a different format, we're certainly open to suggestions on things.
Would the law require you to be the signature giver on TANs or audit submissions or official documents that go to the audit company?
I believe I am required to sign the TAN, some of the TAN documents, and I've always done that in the past. So.
And that statute I read to you, and I don't remember we discussed this at the fall conference, but the pamphlet at the end of the year, is that something that's ever been discussed here at the commissioner level, or to your
I
knowledge?
don't think we've ever had a discussion about a pamphlet. And again, to me, that's, sort of a holdover, sort of an old fashioned way of saying it, because certainly we've got our, our budget and, documents online where I think they're much more accessible than a, pamphlet, for example. That information is, available and accessible to anybody who wants it. I don't know that putting together a printed pamphlet and sending it out is necessarily the best way to comply with the spirit of the statute. So.
Questions? Don't take this personal, because I think we've all complimented the working relationship you have with Lindsay. And I think I brag about that a little bit when I had the opportunity. I think we're in good shape as a county in the way in which we handle things. Do you have an opinion on appointed versus elected? And do you really put your reputation behind the need for another person, full-time person? As a person who's been with it, what, 6 years?
7 plus, yeah.
You have a role or position on appointed versus elected?
Sure. I'll answer both those questions. So yes, I believe it should continue to be an elected position because of the oversight nature of it. And as folks have spoken here today, that gives the taxpayers an opportunity to select someone that they feel is going to be responsible for the oversight. Again, to me, appointed, there isn't as much opportunity for that public voice and input. And again, I think, going back through history, the folks in Oxford County have spoken on that issue before and rejected that idea. And I guess I would just add on to it, even though it hasn't necessarily been asked. So again, it just, since I've been here, that I have been, the minority representation party-wise. I don't feel strongly that these elected positions need to be done by party. I believe that Somerset County has gone to not electing county positions by party. I think they've taken away that party designation in elections the same way that select board members are elected. So again, I don't think it's, is a partisan issue in any way, shape, or form. I think it's just a matter, again, of oversight, of transparency, and allowing the taxpayers to have a voice in who fulfills that role. And then I think you asked the second question about whether I stood behind needing a full-time position. And yes, I strongly feel that we need to hire a full-time person in the office to stop, to make it cohesive and not just having, all these little Band-Aids put together as it's been developed to handle that role in the office. The treasurer position certainly does not need to be full-time, and I think was not envisioned to be that way. Again, as an oversight role, I think that can be done on a part-time basis.
Is the part-time piece definable in your view? In terms of hours a week or per month, per year, or whatever?
Yes and no. So, I think as you've all experienced, there is a defined hours requirement today, for example, the workshop, for example. But questions are answered, from home, calls are taken, there might be a particular assignment as we, analyze something, numbers wise. So, there's a fluidity to it as well. Again, Tim can probably speak to this. My sense is that I have spent a lot more time here than my predecessor spent.
No question.
In the role. So again, I also think that there should be some flexibility for the person who is in the role to define it. I work full time, or I might spend a whole lot more time here. So if you have someone in the role, who's retired or doesn't have a full-time job, they might want to spend more time here and be more involved in the day-to-day operations. And, So I don't know that I can give a definitive answer on that. I really think it depends. And if you allow the flexibility, I think you'll end up with a better working relationship between the treasurer, the other department head, monthly department head meeting, for example, might be a defined, hours set or requirement. And we could work on a job description, but again, it's only applicable to a point, I think. But I also think it should be discussed in concert with whether or not you decide to have another full-time position in the office, because that would inform things going forward, especially if that person took over, doing the deposits, for example, which I currently do, which I don't think has ever been written into the treasurer job description.
So I did want to talk to you about what you do and just kind of have you give us an overview of what that, we chatted briefly a few different times about this, but I thought it was good timing since you're getting done, unfortunately. To just, for us to understand what it is you're doing in the office.
Right.
And, as part of that patchwork, I guess, which, and the hours that it takes just to do what you do. And I do think it's helpful that we have a better kind of view of that, so that you're right. I think it's a really good point to say we can't define the role for another elected individual. They need to define the role themselves. And you have said you would be willing to stay on and train that person. So that's good too. And that will set expectations. But I think that we as commissioners should also just have some sort of, I think Zane probably knows better, what he expects that you're doing, because you've decided to define it that way than we do. And I think it's good for us to have that as well. So, and you said you deposit the checks, and you've gone over the budget with me, so I know that, but do you want to just give us sort of a rundown of what you do?
Yeah, I'll hit a few things. I will give you the caveat. This isn't necessarily going to be exhaustive,
Right.
because,
Okay, like thinking about
it's
that.
spontaneous, but I think over time I could work on writing down and making it a little more exhaustive. Again, not necessarily as a roadmap, but just to give you an idea. So yes, so part of what I did when I came in, because there was nobody in the office, there was a pile of checks and money that needed to be deposited. So I started doing that. And as a matter of financial controls, you never want the person who's balancing the books, which in this case is Lindsay, also doing the deposits, because then you don't have financial controls, and we would get dinged on the audit for that. So those need to be two separate people, regardless of how you define the treasurer's role or the role of someone else. So I make the deposits. We have, I want to say, about 16 bank accounts, and to true things up and to true things up on the fund balances, you have to transfer money between them. So I do all those transfers again, so that there's that financial control where I'm doing the transfer, and then Lindsay is, checking that. At the end of the month, the deeds office brings down a financial report, so some of their money gets transferred to document preservation. Some of it goes to the county because Deeds has their own set of bank accounts. So I take care of the transfers related to that. Probate also has one, so I take care of the transfers related to that. I make sure that there's petty cash in this office. I make sure that, probate office has changed, just some very small mechanical things, as far as what I would say regular duties. I go to department head meetings. I meet regularly with the county administrator and the finance director, and we discuss policy issues and big things like, should we do Bill.com? Do we need to go to a different vendor? Payroll, things like that. So there's what I would generally call the consulting bucket, which again, I don't know that I can give you, a time on, because it's on an as needed basis. I've also done it because money touches almost every function of the county. So for example, when we went to full-time jail, and they were contracting for services, for food services, for medical, I reviewed the contracts. Part of that is because I'm an attorney and, you know, I have that skill. Part of it is because it's financial, and I do feel that the finance office should be involved in contracting and procurement, you know, not just numbers wise, but all the conditions wise. You know, yeah, as you heard Lindsay say, that is sometimes a requirement that you have to make sure, you know, for example, that the person you're contracting with isn't on the, you know, do not contract with list, or, you know. But again, it's a financial protection to make sure that, you know, that it's, you know, in your best interest. So again, a lot of it has been ad hoc in that way, as duties, you know, sort of duties as assigned, you know, I guess it's that general catch-all. So, and again, I could go through and try to, you know, make a list of that, but again, I feel that that's going to be helpful to a point, but not necessarily provide the specific roadmap for someone else in this position.
Yeah, I do. I appreciate that.
So, and budgeting's been a big part of it too. I would say, you know, obviously budget season, you all know how much time that takes. So that's, you know, again, if you're looking for a metric on hours, you know, it's, you know, helping the department heads develop the budget, going to the budget meetings, all that sort of thing. So there's some quantification that can be done.
Thank you. So I also wanted to, as I chatted with you previously, look at the salary that you have now and talk about if that is something that we should adjust for someone new coming in, and if it's really appropriate for the time involved with the position. And we chatted about how there was just, I forget what one county we talked about did some token of $900 or something like that. And I think because they're treasurer name only, maybe something like that. But I mean, so it runs the gamut in the state, maybe. I don't know. That's like, and then of course, lots of people are looking to get rid of it, but the position. So what do you think about, because it's not only your salary, it's also full-time benefits, right? It's like, so you're getting the benefits that we all do. So, and I don't know the monetary value of that off the top of my head, but it is part of the consideration, not just the actual outlay. So what do you think? What's your position on that?
So when I started in the position, I think the salary was somewhere around $15,000.
Yes.
And I, you know, have benefited from the yearly increases. I think that also reflects that I have gained a lot of on-the-job experience over the last 7+ years, and that those yearly raises reflect that. I would not be opposed if you have someone wholly new in the experience in the position who has no experience, to set the rate closer to what I would call the starting rate for someone who has no experience in the position, you know, where I started. I don't know that you need to start them where the current rate currently stands. I would caution against setting it too low, because you run the risk of getting someone who works to, you know, the salary / stipend, you know, and makes themselves a treasurer name only because they feel that the compensation isn't adequate to compensate for their time. Again, I hate to talk about it in a vacuum because it really is going to depend on, you know, how much the next treasurer puts into this. If all they do is come to the monthly commissioner meetings, that's a different calculus in my mind than if they are in the office on a weekly or daily, you know, a more frequent basis. Again, if we are equating time spent with compensation, you know, and again, whatever other roles they might take on. So, so those are my thoughts without giving, you know, a specific answer on that. So, you know, mechanically, I think the time to address it again would be during the budget cycle. that also gives, you know, the budget committee the opportunity to weigh in on thoughts. And again, I think, you know, voices, the representative voices of the taxpayers acting through the budget committee too, it is also a valuable input, so.
So they don't set salary. They don't talk about it. Except ours.
Also does get a little input even.
Yeah.
Make sure, yeah. Also, but I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
We're not only paying her for the hours she puts in, but also the fact she's responsible for paying out a $20 million budget. That's a lot of responsibility, to make sure that it's paid out properly. So there's a lot more to it than just time put in.
Right. Again, I, you know, you don't want to underpay someone that you're not attracting quality candidates to run for it. You know, again, you know, I don't mean to be colloquial, but you don't want someone who's just going to mail it in. Because again, the oversight of that amount of money is important. And, you know, it does set the tone when you set the salary as far as what sort of candidate you're trying to attract with that.
I appreciate the fact that you differentiated between a partisan position and a skilled position. And I'm wondering, with that background, do you think if we proceed as we probably from a timing point of view must, assuming that there will be nomination papers filed in the next month and an election will occur in November and someone will take your place, should there be any defined skills for the position for anybody to run, or just can anybody looking for a warm place to find a seat and a desk once or twice a month qualify? And if that were to happen, somebody with nothing but a partisan issue or goal of simply drawing a check and getting a health insurance, that puts us in an awkward position of having a salary budgeted in advance for a person like you, who's skilled and qualified, of put in the position of assuming that successor ought to take the same salary you're getting. It's an awkward position. And do you have any strong feelings about specifying qualification and or compensating accordingly?
Well, I don't think that you can, because the only thing that the statute says for the treasurer qualifications is that you live in Oxford County. So yes, it can just be a warm body, you know, unfortunately. But again, to me, that's the role of the voters, is to assess the candidates and to do the due diligence, you know. And again, as voters in Oxford County, you know, again, I would hope that, you know, you would look at the qualifications and, you know, again, without being partisan, you know, select the best candidate based on qualifications for the position, because I think that's what the position deserves, quite frankly. That being said, you're going to know by final budget time, when you set the budget, who's been elected to this position. So you won't be doing it blindly.
Which is exactly why I wanted to have this conversation before then, because I don't want it to be based on who's going to get the position. And frankly, I don't even know who's running for the position right now. But I feel like it's a conversation to have before it looks like it's partisan, and when it is still just about the position and about the finances, and also, you know, really recognizing how important the role is. And I do think we have a really good system here. I mean, if you were to drop away completely, there would be a continuity, because we do have, you know, what we're talking about earlier, people in the office. But I think it's especially given what's happening across the state with other counties. I mean, it's really important that commissioners pay attention to this, you know, because sometimes the role is taken very seriously and sometimes not at all. And it's a world of hurt to, if the commissioners assume that the treasurer is doing something that the treasurer assumes the commissioners are, and we have a crossover, then, you know, and that's not happening here. I just want to make sure it doesn't happen as well. And make sure that we're putting things forward. So, I mean, one of the ideas I had was that we pay a salary similar to commissioners, but I think we're getting like 12, 13. So I think 15 is pretty in line with that. So I kind of agree with that. And I would like, and yes, and that's why I wanted to have the before budget season, when we know who it is and it looks partisan, I don't want it to be. So that is why I asked for it to be discussed earlier than later. So I am all set with that. I think, I don't know if we want to make a decision on salary that we want to put in our next budget, or just kind of put a pin in it and just say we've had the discussion. That's good.
I'm okay with putting a pin in it. and
Okay.
Have a discussion budget time.
Are you as well? Okay. Is that good for you too? Anything else you want to add?
Yeah,
Okay.
no, I think that's good because again, like I said, I think it really ought to be discussed, excuse me, in concert with discussion of the other staffing in the office. Because it's not separate, it's part of a whole.
That we have no control over.
None.
So, yeah, okay, so just to go back to the staffing in the finance office, because we jumped topics, and I wanted to ask one question. And that is, how many hours a week do we have a temp? You know, say, and so if you don't, we can get back to it.
Then, 3 8-hour days. So she works, Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays.
So, and it will vary because a week like this, she's not gonna come on Tuesday to make up for the fact that Monday was a holiday. She'll only be in 2 days this week.
And then I also have, okay, so then the thing is next on the agenda is the TAM.
So, we are going to need a TAN.
Darn.
Yes.
I was hoping the good news was, you don't need one.
No, we will need a TAN. And obviously timeline wise now is the time to start the process. So I think what we are looking for today is a motion from the board to allow us to start that process. Last year we started, Lindsay has run the numbers because it's by statute, you know, there is a formula as far as what our max borrowing would be. And that's important when we put it out, because I do think even though we've gone with the same financial institution, we should put it out to bid, which is basically emailing it to some of the other banks to see if there's anything more competitive. I've been very happy with Androscoggin Bank and, you know, again, don't see any reason not to again in the future, but you know, for the sake of complying with proper procurement procedures, we should put it out to bid. But to even start that process, you know, get things otherwise teed up, we would need more today to start the process.
So moved.
I would second it, and could we have a brief discussion? In your opinion, working with Lindsay and Zane, timing, format, et cetera, amount. As a sideline, given that it's come up a couple of times with town, that if we were to give town the opportunity, whether they're in a calendar fiscal year or a June fiscal year, an opportunity to pay in quarterly installments, would that address the issue of needs for money early in the calendar year for us? And is it worth pursuing?
It would help, you know, with some analysis, Lindsay might be able to run some numbers for you as far as how much interest we see, because last year Zane did proactively reach out to some of the towns and ask if they would be willing to pay a portion early. And I do know that the more we get early on, that pushes the date of our borrowing back. Promotes the cash flow. So yes, I think that's a valid avenue to pursue and consider. And I know that, you know, towns have asked why they only pay once a year. So, again, if it's not prohibited by statute, and I think we should do due diligence on that, and they're willing to pay part of it early, it will help with the cash flow and ultimately save us money and interest if we're not borrowing the money for as long.
One last question, Beth, in your conversation with your peers, I believe there are 7 of the 16 counties that are on a calendar year and 9 that are on a July-June year. Do you think there's any benefit in Oxford County looking at a transition to a July-June year, given that we do depend somewhat on the state? We don't depend much on the federal government, but is there any merit in pursuing that option down the road?
It's something I'd like to reserve answering until I've had a chance to look at it. You know, sort of the pros and cons in a more concrete way than off the top of my head way. I will say that if you were to transition, there's going to be some period of difficulty and transition where you would have to catch up and do like a year and a half worth of taxes, which again, I don't know if that would be a popular thing. I know we've heard from some towns, you know, why don't you get on a, you know, fiscal year along with the towns and the state, but to do that would be painful. So I think that's something that would have to be worked into the consideration, even if we thought it was a good idea, you know, what that would sort of cost us, you know, transition wise, having to do that.
That would also be a good time if we can have them pay quarterly. That would help them with an 18-year plan.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it wouldn't hit them so hard right off.
Right. So again, I think there would have to be a lot of study and a way to sort of ease into that, or it's going to be sticker shock like nobody's ever had sticker shock before.
And just from the boots on the ground perspective of last year, trying to, you know, get us through that, we did only end up borrowing $1 million for, I think it was 60 days or less, in order to get us through. And we were approved for either 3 or 6 million in our TAN. But going around to the towns to get them to pay early was a hard sell. The people, you know, there were some people that surprised me that were able to have that. But again, I think, you know, just in using Norway as a benefit, you know, as they wanted to do it, but their cash flow was such that, you know, they did do it. It took them a few more weeks to do it, but they did pay half and then paid the other half at the end. Rumford helped us with that. There was a couple others that did, and I kind of went out there looking for people, but I was very surprised at how hard it was. They weren't cash flush in April, March and April. They really weren't. They were struggling just like us.
And I think the point that you made in response to Mr. Turner's comment, this would have to be done with a long-term plan to get there maybe 2 fiscal years out and allow for the quarterly and other transitional options that would even give an incentive maybe to the towns to convert themselves to a July-June year. But it can't be done overnight.
So we have a motion. If we're done with discussion, we could vote on that. All those in favor? Two other things that I had, and I don't know if anyone else has anything specific to treasurers, and Lindsay is still on, I think. One is, I had asked Lindsay at our last meeting if she anticipated or could look at numbers for us, and maybe she has not yet been able to do that, but we had the overage on the, on our insurance. And I think there will be some amount of overage, because probate now is allowed to work more hours. So we had budgeted where they were at, and now, you know, we said, yes, you know, if you need more hours, work that. And when that was done with the DA's office, that definitely increased our salary line there. So I'm assuming same will happen with probate, but we didn't put it into the budget. So those were just two things that at the very start, January 1, basically, we already knew we blew our budget in 2 ways. So I had just wanted some numbers around that to say, okay, if we have, do we need to start looking where we should save? Like, I don't want to wait till, you know, July and August to find out that we should have, you know, cut back something. So, and is Lindsay still on?
I'm still on, yes, and I have not had time to prepare prepare that analysis yet, but I will have it by the workshop. If we want to add that agenda item there.
Okay, we'll do that. Yep, that's perfect. And then the other thing that I was hoping to have done is to have our legal bills sent to us in a different format so that they're easier to assess, so that if it has to do with forward requests, it's comes in one bill. If it's our contract negotiations, it's a separate bill. And that would require us reaching out to the law firms and asking them to do that. And then also, I think, whatever we have, with like our step 2 grievance process, maybe if that was in a different bucket, whatever buckets we can kind of do, because one of the goals I had this year was to look at how much we're spending in legal fees, because it's really exploded. And the only way to do that is to try to parse it out. So is that possible to reach out to the law firms and have them start giving us the bills in that manner?
I think it would be possible. Lindsay and Zane and I had discussed this. I don't think we discussed it in that specificity because we had discussed that you had wanted to take a closer look at the legal bills, which I think to us was just making sure you saw the bills separately and not just on the warrant, so you could see the itemized. But I think we could break it out. I mean, we could have them code it, or we could code it.
We typically, and I don't know whether this would help or not, but we typically use one law firm for our FOA right now, and we use a different law firm for our step 2 grievance, contract negotiations, thing. So, we could do that pretty easily, I think, because pretty much everything that's coming from Scott and Tainer, right, is FOA right now. Yeah. Yep, so we could kind of do that for you. There are some miscellaneous things that we have, like right now, we have the other law firm that's representing the sheriff. So that would be kind of, we would know that that's part of the step 2 grievance, so I guess that could be put there too.
So it can also be Skelton Tainter.
Yep.
But from the law firm side of things, they generally have, a number they bill to. And so if the law firm right now only has Oxford County as their number, we could maybe ask them to have, separate billing numbers depending on what the substantive nature of the representation is. And to me, that would be a reasonable request to the law firm.
So, yeah, so yes, I would like to have like the itemized bills that aren't done this way, just so I can start to review them. But going forward, if we could reach out to the law firm and say, yes, can you, break this down for us in some other way? Then I think going forward, it'll be easier for us to track expenses, which is important. So good. All right, so that's all I had. Does anyone else have anything? Treasurer's report's done.
All right. Are we on time?
No,
No, we're not on time. Yep, not on time at all. So personnel updates and actions, code of conduct.
Nothing's really changed since the first we reviewed this.
Okay.
It's just that the department has to take a chance to look at it, see if there's anything. But there's not. Just for approval. Yep, they're all set.
Thank you so much, Beth. Thank you, Lindsay.
And thank you everybody who came.
Yes, thank you all who joined us. You don't have to leave either. Riveting things still ahead.
There you go. We'll take our chance. I know. Yeah, I reached.
Saw right through us, Dan.
Say what?
I said you saw right through us.
We're in your district.
You certainly are.
Way, yes, yeah. So Steve Brown was here when I was here, and you're new, and Tim.
I'm the old guy now.
I know. If you want to know anything about the treasurer's office, starting with 2011.
Okay.
Yeah, they came from. Yeah.
Good seeing you.
So code of conduct, yes, we did go through this before. And I think you mentioned to me, Zane, that that there was one change that Jeff had suggested, but maybe it didn't make it into this.
It was kind of more like a formatting thing. So when I go to, so when I go to, like put this in the policy booklet. It's gonna kind of be merged with the existing like sexual harassment policy, just so it's all kind of harassment's all kind of together.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Up the code of conduct policy as presented.
Okay, all those in favor?
You have a certain time you want to be out of here?
I'm gonna try to maybe do my Zoom at 1 o'clock here, if it doesn't cause a problem.
And so
I get
that down
in a roll, now.
So that's from Sherry for when you're meeting at 1. There's some information for the
Oh, okay.
hallway.
No, that was a 1 o'clock thing, Tim, and I can, let's finish that, and I'll.
Okay.
So whether they hear it or not.
You got it, there's no problem.
Right. Okay, so the administrative sheet, does anyone have any questions for Zane on that? Or is there anything, Zane, on there that you would like to bring up and realizing time in your,
Yeah, it's, we've got a lot going on. I think, it says it right there. I think, one of the, things that I was very happy about doing and going to, I was a little nervous about was, Western Maine Fire Chiefs Association. I attended that meeting, with them, gave them a little presentation on what's going on in the RCC and, what's going on, with IT, and, it was, well received. I'm not sure what the follow-up will be. I did encourage them to come to the cab. We're going to be making the cab available via Teams here. They're going to actually meet here and do it by Teams so they can try to get more input, more attendance, people involved. So I'm looking forward to that. But that's next. That's not till next month. Yeah, we've got some hirings going on. Jeff.
goodness?
Yeah, we've got 15 or 20 applicants and some really good ones too.
Good. Wow.
So, we're hoping for that, and then to get him his, that will put him.
Applicants for that one, or how many interviews do you expect to do for the administrators? Four.
Four.
That's really good.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear it.
Yep.
Monday morning or Monday afternoon.
Monday afternoon.
And, oh, good.
Yeah, that was,
2 are internal, 2 are out. So
oh, good.
I'm really glad to hear it. Been a long time coming. I was curious where we're at with the contract with Mexico. I saw you had a meeting. It was 3 hours. And, on our end, we're like, oh, we gotta get them the numbers, but on their end, they're not even signing the contract. So,
They're just really caught up on some of the language, and I'm just really caught up on the need for the language. So it's kind of we discussed it, Matt Tarasevich and I discussed it while he was here for other business. And I don't know, I'll go back at it again. I'll go, I want to assure them that we're not looking to have them double pay for anything. It's just they have to pay for the things that we're providing. And, they say things like, well, why do we have to buy uniforms? You guys already own uniforms. Why do we have to buy cruisers? They already have a cruiser. You guys have it. And it's trying to wrap them around that they're not paying for the cruiser, they're paying for the depreciation on the cruiser. That they're not paying for the uniform, they're paying for the fact that the uniform is going to wear out. And, he said, well, guns last a long time. I said, yes. And we've factored that in, that every 10 years the gun gets replaced, but the computer gets replaced every 5. We've really drilled this down to the point where we're really trying to do that. And it's, it's the translation. So I think at some point I will end up back up there at another select board meeting with Jack. And that was actually my plan for this week, is to try to meet up with Jack and and get to another select board meeting.
Yeah, well, when you go to a select board meeting, if you would just give me a heads up, I'd like to try to attend as long as it fits my, as long as I'm actually around, that would be great. Yeah, so. The other thing that I was curious about. Oh, how much is it ending up costing us to have the local, so did you decide to go with them or are we not?
I don't even know how many hours it took him in order to do it. We have been trying to connect, but he's been running one way, and we had passwords and building of things behind the scene in order to get done. So
We just got the link, so we're not, we haven't talked to him yet.
we haven't even talked to him about how much time, so I'm hoping that it's,
If
well,
something comes back reasonable, but we don't yet know.
we don't know yet.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
we don't know. I was just so glad to see that it got posted up there. But I do think that it is, he would have called me if it was some big fiasco. Because he was in touch with me about getting that, and then it just it went. So I'm definitely gonna follow up with Pete and find out how much he's gonna bill us for this. Comes in really reasonable because I think it's the way to go. It takes it out of our hands. He picks up a zip drive, very limited. We don't have to touch it a lot. It's we record the video, we download it to a zip drive. We put it out there, he comes and picks it up, he downloads it, he drops back by, gives us the zip drive back, and then he does it. So,
And we're supporting local access TV, which I do appreciate doing. So I think it is good as long as the price is reasonable.
Yeah.
Um,
and I will keep you updated on that as soon as that comes in.
the other thing I wanted to know is if we have the no parking when ice and snow are present.
That's a little bit of a hard sign to come by, so we're having to order those. But they will be here, and we've got the cones out there right now. So that when there is ice and stuff like that, we put the cones in the spots to make sure. But we will get those, but those are a
And it does say no parking, right? Like that's the language.
well, when the cone's in there, it does say no parking on the cone.
No, I mean, but when we order the signs.
Yes.
Okay.
No parking when snow and ice.
Okay, perfect. I did want to thank you for moving so quickly on the grant for Northern Borders, like just because apparently the deadline for that is really quick.
Yeah.
And you jumped on that, so I appreciate that. I don't know if there's any update on that, not that we need it, but.
I mean, we're working on it.
Yeah.
And we've got the original letter in to hold it, and then gonna start working with a couple of different people in order to give it our best shot at getting it. And I think we will.
Yeah, that would be really good. And then, so why can't our grant writer help with that? Do we know what other projects she's on or?
So she can, right now she isn't. Right now, it's something that's just based with Tony and I. And I kind of like that for right now. And again, seeing who we're gonna work with and how we're gonna do this, because the gentleman at AvCog is very willing to work with us too. So we've got a pretty good handle over it right now. If it were to get beyond that, then we would certainly elicit some help from.
Okay, good, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else you wanna touch on or anything?
Any idea on the laptops for Tim and myself?
Should be coming within the next couple of weeks. They're ordered and they're on, I believe they should arrive sometime this week. But then it's gonna take a few days to build those for you and get the necessary stuff loaded there yet.
Right, alternative negotiators. So information.
Unfortunately, it's not very good. We just got the email from, let me pull it up, from Maine Municipal, who I don't understand because they advertise it on their website as a service, but then this morning The email was that their insurance carrier denied to cover them for that type of service for negotiating at the table. So I'm not sure why. I was hoping that that would be an alternative to get in, yeah, to see what their hourly rate is, or if it was a contract per contract, but explain what we were looking for, and apparently they're not available, so we'll have to look elsewhere. I did do like a kind of like a Google search for people, and there's no one that like came up, so I don't know if it would be beneficial to us to like put out like requests for proposals or something like that, just to see people, because there may be people who don't like advertise that service but have experience in it, you know?
Right.
So I'm not sure.
And I thought the other avenue that you had suggested, and maybe I have this wrong, but it was that you, through your HR circles, that there might be someone in that universe that could either, does that or would know somebody that does that.
Yeah, I could ask them and see if they have any interest. I would kind of, I think you might have remembered when I was talking about how like if we have questions and stuff, I kind of email that group, but it would be like specific like questions about something. But
Okay.
yeah, I can ask if anyone knows something.
Okay, well, that's worth it, and I'll try to brainstorm on that as well, because we were hoping that we'd have good. Okay, Bethel contract for ambulance and fire service.
So just throw this on there for information purposes mostly. So this is tied to our UT budget. And we're seeing this a lot going on, is that, the fire protection that they provided us, Bethel provided us last year was 36,887. And this year they increased to 45,000, which is basically covering $1,000 per call. And these are vehicle accidents, mostly vehicle accidents, a few structure fires, rescue, carry out, a couple of CMP issues, and things like that. So that was something that went up. However, their rescue, we paid them $9,460 last year, and their request for payment was $60,000. Because we've gone from a typical 40 calls per year to 63 in half the year. A little over half the year to September. And they're using that same thing. I did negotiate with Sharon. We only had $65,000 available in the budget, in the increases that we had done for the UT. So she accepted the 45 for the fire and 20,000 for the rescue. We will have to try to address that as we go forward, and try to get ourselves more in line with that. But the UT budget right now has been kicked back by the governor. It usually is signed this time of year, but it has gotten kicked back for more information to CHIP. So we're kind of all just kind of waiting to see what that means.
Good.
Services going up, but not the income.
Right. Right, so the long and the short of that is you have negotiated to a place that we can pay for it in the current budget.
Mhm.
Okay,
And we are.
thank you.
It was difficult.
I can
Because
imagine.
the letter came all in one, just so you know.
Yeah. Okay, so the next is Wellness Works.
It's the simple, just renew our contract or our grant with them. It's really changed.
Need a motion, right?
Yeah.
I move that we approve the application for wellness watch for 2026 up to $3,900.
All those in favor?
All right, so it looks like the only thing we have left is 2 executive sessions, unless there's other items that we need, okay? Okay, so. And then just for anyone watching online, these executive sessions are, one is an update on a personnel matter and another is an update on contract negotiations. And there will be no motions needed after we finish with those. So we will come back out of executive session and adjourn. So the public portion of our meeting is complete at this point. And then when we adjourn, we'll just state the time and be done for the day. So with that, I guess we need a motion to go into executive session for whichever. How about the contract negotiation?
Sure. I believe that's 6D. Oh, 6D. We know off our heads.
All right.
For this, and everyone agrees that there's a need for more shelter funding. It's now needling that detail and saying, don't take it from us.